Good morning. Happy Tuesday. It's time for coffee and Cursey Words. I've got coffee. I've got Cursey Words. Let me know where you're coming in from, where you're watching from. Let me tell you what we're talking about today. We're just talking about people going to federal prison. That's really what we're talking about today. We've got sentencing to catch up on from Elizabeth Holmes. The Chrisleys were both sentenced yesterday. I thought those sentencings would go over till today. They didn't. We've got a lot to talk about there. We haven't even had a chance to go over those sentencing memos yet. Sentencing dates have changed in the Jen Shah case. And then we've got a very interesting parody case coming before the Supreme Court. No, it's not the one you're thinking of. And when we start talking about it, if it is the one you're thinking of, I'm going to have to figure out what kind of prize you win, because I had not heard of this case, but I enjoy that the Supreme Court is kind of grouping together cases. This won't be the only parody case they're taking up, but I like seeing them. They're kind of like, oh, we're talking about this thing. Here's another context for that thing. We have a lot of intellectual property cases coming up, and this one I'm fascinated by. And generally, when I'm like, oh my God, no way, y'all are like, oh my God, no way. So that's what we're doing today. I can't believe these sentencings, man. The feds are done with your financial crimes is the takeaway here. So that's what we're talking about today. Oh, and there's a quick update about, a YouTuber who's been sued by a talent company that had a hearing on the internet yesterday. Some of the OG law nerds might have been following along with that. We'll just do a quick update on that during quick bits. So replay crew, cheers. We love you. There will always be timestamps down below. It is a week where we are trying to spend time with family. I am not going to be on the internet all that much this week. Why? Because I'm going to be playing Pokemon. Aren't you? Who's playing Pokemon Scarlet Violet? Let me know. I really wanted to play Violet. My kid really wanted to play Violet. I can't, when two of us are playing, I can't buy two of the same version. I can't do it. So we bought Scarlet and Violet. So I am playing through Scarlet. He is playing through Violet, and then we will switch. My youngest and I have had so much fun playing through Pokemon together, like literally sitting next to each other, sitting next to each other playing along. So we've had a great time. If I wanted to play Violet, and my youngest is like, that one. We all pick Pokemon the same way. Look, I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that I have strategy. I go for whatever's the cutest. I want to giggle. I want to go with what's cutest. That is what I want to do. So with that, I love so much that you guys are playing Pokemon too. I see it in the chat. You guys are the best. Yes, we're playing on the Switch. Emily's ridiculous. You know this about me, that I'm ridiculous. The reason we have two Switches at our house is because I cannot share. That's why. I can't share my Pokemon Go game. Like, I'm not one of those parents who's ever going to be like, hey, here's my phone, go ahead and play. I'm going to be like, do not evolve anything. Do not trade anything. Do not waste my Ultra Balls. Here, play on your dad's phone. I can't. I can't share. I want to play my games. I want to hang out. I just don't want people to touch my stuff. Is that terrible? Maybe it's terrible. But look, I know myself. So I'm never, ever going to yell at my kids about it. I'm just going to find another way. So that's why we have two Nintendo Switches, because Emily hates it when people touch her stuff. I had to share the Nintendo Switch with my kids. And then when I was traveling, the one time I took the Switch traveling, my kids were like, where is the Switch? I'm like, on a plane with me, because it's my favorite thing to do when I'm flying. So yeah, there was one flight where a very sweet gentleman came up on the flight. He's like, oh my God, are you playing Breath of the Wild? I'm like, yeah, because I'm literally in my seat like this. It's ridiculous. I love playing the Switch. I love playing the Switch in public. I love chatting with people who also love playing the Switch. I love it so much. But yes, I absolutely can't. I absolutely can't share. So we've got a new light setup today. I am going to see how I like it. That's what's going on. So we should roll the intro. We've got some other things to talk about. I love that you guys chat. You are the best. It's not bad. That's boundaries. I love it. Was I an only child? No, I was not an only child. I'm an eldest child. My brother is 4 years younger than me. But I'm also like I was like, don't touch my stuff at the DA's office. Like, I'm not going to be chill if you come in and grab a pen off my desk. Like, it's going to make me twitch a little bit. I'm going to be like, yeah, it's fine. It's totally fine. Those are my pens. I specifically picked those pens. I love all of them. Dude, I can't. I'm ridiculous, but I know myself and I try not to impose my ridiculousness on others. I just try to tell them what my boundaries are. And then if they don't understand, I'm like, please don't touch my stuff. Please don't touch my stuff. Please don't touch my stuff. And with the ADHD, and then I swear we'll talk about law stuff, but with the ADHD, like when I put my stuff in a specific place, I will either remember it's in that one place forever, or that thing will cease to exist in my brain and I will completely forget that I have it. So when people touch my stuff and move it, the thing disappears, just disappears. There is no item permanence. I know it's something that's supposed to happen in the brain, the neurospicy brain with the neurodivergence. It's just like, no, the thing does not exist. The thing does not exist. So I struggle with that. But when people move my stuff, then I truly don't remember where it is, because like I will remember it's in that one space or it doesn't exist. This happened this weekend. I have been on kind of a, like, we have a week. I'm not working a ton this week. I'm taking some downtime. My kiddo, my oldest, had stuff with school, with a school team this weekend. My youngest was helping me organize stuff. And so I have been on like a 4-day, like, we're organizing the fridge, we're organizing the cabinets, because during the amount of work I've been doing, things have gotten a little out of system. So I am constantly getting things back into their system, because when I don't maintain them, then I can literally find nothing. CEG, what I talked about like 3 minutes ago. So we're going through all of it. And my husband comes out with 2 bags from the Container Store and he's like, can I use these in the garage? I'm like, sir, those were supposed to go in the kitchen, and I completely forgot they existed because I purchased them and then I traveled and then I traveled and then I traveled and then I forgot because I had a project. So then I ended up redoing what I had done in the kitchen because I was like, no, I had bought things for that. Damn it. So with that, it's been an adventure. If you're following me along on Instagram, not only do I have a fundraiser in my profile over there on Instagram with regard to the attack in Colorado at Club Q, there's a fundraiser there in the Instagram tab that you can go, and it'll just be right on my Instagram profile. But I've also been sharing along with the 7th, 9th, 15th office rejudge that I've done. So we're just sharing the rejudge with you all as we go through it, but trying to find a new light setup where the light is bouncing. Deep YouTube behind the scenes stuff. The light's bouncing and it's not right in my eyes, I think is going to make it easier for me to stream for longer and easier for me to read the screen. So that's what we're doing here. But if you want to see that fundraiser from or for the community in Colorado impacted by that attack at Club Q, that's over there on Instagram. A bunch of the accounts that cover Bravo pulled together and put that together. And I was more than happy to share it, to donate to it, and to share it to all of you. And with that, I will finally be getting into the intro because we've been chatting as we always do. You know, it's a week where we get to chat. So let's roll the intro. Let's get into our legal things. We have stuff to do. And yeah, we have stuff. Oh my God. And I'm going to have to tell you a little bit about the podcast for tomorrow. I'm so excited about the podcast for tomorrow. So we'll talk about that too. Hey there. If we haven't met yet, I'm Emily D. Baker, the badass lawyer and everyone's favorite legal commentator. I'm the host of The Emily Show, and I break down the legal shit behind the news and pop culture stories we all want to talk about. I have been a licensed attorney for over 15 years, but this is not legal advice. I should warn you, I'm a big fan of the cursey words. This channel is where the law nerds unite to talk about facts, not fuckery. Y'all, before we get all the way into today's live, we do have a sponsor. Our sponsor's in the chat. I just saw her pop in. Jen Gerard, I see you in the chat. But today we have a sponsor for this stream, and a huge thank you to Jen Gerard at Gerard Cosmetics. You guys know the lips have been rocking Gerard Cosmetics for, I don't know, as long as I can remember at this point. It's been years because not only can I talk without it moving around and gooping in the corners, but I love the colors, I love the formula, and I love the light up. Like, I just look, we love a woman-owned company because our brains sometimes are like, we need that. Yeah, we need a mirror on our lip gloss and a light in the lid. This one is getting cranky with me, but there is a light in the lid that lights up. So when you are doing your lip gloss, you can see it. Of course, I pulled the one that is cranky with me from overuse. That it happens. It's rare, but it happens. But you get the light on your lips from the lid of the lip gloss, and it is fantastic, especially when it is dark. So the entire store, the entire site is 51% off through Cyber Monday, November 28th. That includes things that never, ever, 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 ever go on sale, including Hair AF and the Clean Canvas Eye Base. I use both of those products and love them. The Lip Plumper Kiss Assist is back in stock. The Rose Scented Setting Spray is back in stock. It's literally the only scented setting spray that I've ever used. It's the only setting spray I've ever used. Why? Because I didn't know I needed setting spray. And it actually makes your makeup stay on longer. It's insane. It's like, what is this? What is this? So the lip glosses I have on my desk are the ones I wear the most frequently on stream. You guys always ask. Look, pink frosting, OG favorite. It's kind of sheer. It's kind of pink. It's kind of sparkly. I love it the most. I wear this all the time. This is the Passion Collab. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous color. That's one of the darker ones I wear. And then the other pinkier dark one that I wear, these are specific terms of art. Pinkier one is Rose Hill. I love this one too. So all of the things, the lip gloss or the lip liner I'm wearing today under this is Bel Air. It's one of my favorite. You guys know I love Bel Air and Cher. So with that, we've got links down below. Gerard Cosmetics, 51% off, free US shipping on all orders over $20. Jen Gerard, how are you affording free shipping over $20? I'm entirely positive that you're losing money on that. Shipping is so expensive right now. Go get your free shipping. Just go get your free shipping. Go get your free shipping. All international orders have free shipping over $100. And there are mystery boxes that launch on Black Friday, November 25th with 3 different sizes. So those are your deals over at Gerard Cosmetics. Thank you, Jen Gerard, again for sponsoring this stream. All right, let us get in. The way I am so frustrated with StreamYard right now. My StreamYard just went, there's been an error. It's not your fault. You can't yeet me out of my own chat and been like, there's been an error. It's not your fault. What is happening, internet? That was not my fault. The StreamYard, there's been an error and it's not your fault. Okay, StreamYard. That was a back end issue. You know what? Sometimes it's hard. I love seeing you guys saying oopsie doodle in the chat. You know what? There we go. Well, you guys that are talking about expensive shipping, free shipping over $100. There you go. Alrighty. Let us get in to the quick bits. That's where we were. SC said, question, Black Friday deal for Laundered merch. The sale on the Laundered shop is already ongoing. So you will see it over there if you go to the Laundered shop, and we launched some new stuff. We launched them for the podcast anniversary, and we're leaving them up through the end of the month. Let us go into quick bits. It's time. Quick bits. Emily, during that bumper is when you're supposed to get your screen share going. And then when you don't get the screen share going, then the screen share is not ready when you're ready. So the background, I saw a few comments in the chat asking if we were code red. We're not. I put it on the rotating lights. So it's just going to hopefully in a Zen way kind of rotate through the different light colors. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. I'm enjoying it. So what in the internet fuckery is happening today? I am so annoyed. I'm trying to pull something up and it's like, you're not logged in. I'm like, but I am though. But I am though. The first thing we're talking about in quick bits is the Supreme Court taking on a new parody case. I saw one in the chat. There might have been more, but I saw one. Dillingham, Gold Star, you win. Hold on. Here we go. You win. The Bad Spaniels case. The Bad Spaniels case is going to the Supreme Court. This is a parody case involving Jack Daniels and dog toys. And I don't know if there's ever been a case that I'm more excited to follow, except maybe the Brits fighting over cake. I love that case too. I also kind of love the Satan Shoes case because it made people so salty and that was hilarious. Justices agree to hear Jack Daniels' dog toy trademark case. Yes. Yes. More of this. I want more of this at the Supreme Court. More of this. This is Jack Daniels. This is a dog toy. This is coming from our friends over at Law 360. The U.S. Supreme Court on Monday agreed to hear an appeal by Jack Daniels of a decision that a parody dog toy called Bad Spaniels does not infringe on the liquor maker's trademark. Yep. Douglas Hoodie said, oh God, Jack Daniels has a cake that tastes like straight Jack. Yeah, that's Tennessee for you. I fucking love Tennessee. I like living here. I like the whiskey cake. I didn't know that was a thing until we moved. But I think this is hilarious. Now, this is not a Chewy Vuitton. I don't think Chewy Vuitton has ever gone to court. I need to look and see if Chewy Vuitton has gone to court, then we will be covering Chewy Vuitton and Bad Spaniels. Because look, the court is going to have to take up parody in a variety of ways. And I think it's fair to take it up in the context of trademark. Because when you're looking at something like this, is it really infringement? But is it not infringement? Where are the boundaries of trademark? And when is it too close? Look, consumer confusion is one of the hallmarks of trademark. Are you confused? I'm not confused. Are you confused? Are you confused? I'm not confused. We're not confused. So is it infringing? Bad Spaniels, the old number 2 on your Tennessee carpet. This at the bottom here, the attention to detail always gets me. It says 43% poo by volume. I can't read what it says on that side. 100% smelly, maybe? Yep. So I think it's hilarious. The attention is fantastic. They are not exact, but this is pretty funny. This feels like a Caterpillar cake type Aldi knockoff thing, but I don't think anyone's trying to drink the Bad Spaniels. I would love to see where Jack Daniels trademarks are that cover dog toys, because just trademarking it for drinks isn't going to get you there, but I'm interested to see the Supreme Court take it off. So the High Court, ladies and gentlemen, the High Court has decided. Sorry, that's my stuffy old lawyer dude voice. I know there are women on the Supreme Court. I know that. But the High Court has decided that they are going to deign to take up the case of the Spaniel. Jack Daniels claimed that the appeals court's ruling unjustifiably transforms humor into a get-out-of-the-Lantham Act free card. Were they trying to be quippy with that? To be sure, everyone likes a good joke, Jack Daniels says, but VIP's profit-motivated joke confuses consumers by taking advantage of Jack Daniels' hard-earned goodwill. That sounds like PR for, God damn it, we didn't think of this first. That's PR for, we should have done this first. Dog toys. Why didn't we do dog toys? Maybe they're saying the confusion is in the origin. Like they're not confused that it's whiskey, but they're confused that this isn't actually being sold by Jack Daniels. They're not like, oh, look at Jack Daniels being cheeky. In a decision from 2020, the Ninth Circuit said that the Bad Spaniels Silly Squeaker, which looks like the famous whiskey bottle but replaces the text with light-hearted canine puns, is covered by the First Amendment, which makes it almost impossible to sue for trademark infringement. The Bad Spaniels dog toy, although surely not the equivalent of the Mona Lisa. The Ninth Circuit's getting shady. Like, don't judge art. We like potty humor. Look, your honors, not all of us appreciate fine art. We like a good meme. Leave us be. Well, surely not the equivalent of the Mona Lisa. The dog toy is an expressive work, the court held. The toy communicates a humorous message using wordplay to alter the serious phrase that appears on a Jack Daniels bottle. What is the serious phrase? Jack Daniels, Tennessee, Sour Mash, Whiskey. Number 7. They take pride in being number 7. I'll tell you what. I want to know who was number 1. I need to do another whiskey tour here in Tennessee and learn more about the whiskey heritage here in Tennessee. It's fascinating to me. But look, the serious language. The serious language literally tells you what's in the bottle. It tells you what's in the bottle. Though, I gotta admit, I'll just admit it. We talked about this. We talked about this on another stream. Look, I can't. Jack Daniels is one of those that college killed me on it. I can't. I have not tried to deign a Jack and Coke again, but I just don't think I can. Though the Ninth Circuit getting cheeky there is amusing to me. I am amused. VIP, this has to be the company that made the dog toy, urged the Supreme Court last month to reject the case, saying the lower court correctly held that the dog toy is protected speech. Your honors, let us squeak on out into the sunset. VIP has never sold whiskey or other, I can't pronounce that at all. My brain went to consumables, but that's not, whatever. It's not sold whiskey or other shit, nor has it used Jack Daniels in any way humorously or not. The toy maker said, in merely mimicking enough of the iconic bottle that people would get the joke. I like the argument that it's parody. They're probably going to try to argue trade dress and feel. I'm very, very, very interested to go back through and read this suit from the Ninth Circuit and actually cover this in a serious way. VIP, the creator of Bad Spaniels toy, sued Jack Daniels in 2014 after receiving a cease and desist over the product. Oh, that's bold. They got a cease and desist and they were like, fuck you. We're going to sue you for ceasing and desisting us. We're not going to cease and desist. In fact, we're going to sue you to say back off. Bold. That's bold. I like it. Let's see. Bad Spaniels sued Jack Daniels in 2014 after receiving a cease and desist over the product, which replaces the bottle's iconic old number 7 with the satirically humorous old number 2. Old number 7 actually goes to the 7th, like, not trademarked, that's not the right word, but the 7th approved whiskey recipe or whiskey formula in Tennessee. They take the 7 very seriously. The Supreme Court previously refused to hear the case in January 2021. The decision came after the Ninth Circuit concluded that the toy was expressive, reversing an Arizona federal judge's ruling that it infringed on the Jack Daniels trademark. After the justices declined to hear the case, it returned to the district court, which granted summary judgment to VIP on remand, a decision the Ninth Circuit affirmed without an opinion. Jack Daniels said in its new cert petition, so it's going up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. In its new cert petition, that the district court begrudgingly entered summary judgment for VIP while lamenting that the Ninth Circuit test excuses nearly any use less than slapping another's trademark on your own work and calling it your own. I mean, that's an argument. In response, VIP told the justices that there was no need to take the case because what this court has now before it is exactly the same as what it had before. Just stick, Your Honor, so wise, so smart. Remember, remember, remember what you said before. Go with that, pick that, do that. So smart. Stick with your prior ruling. The court was right. Just do that again. VIP said that Jack Daniels just has a problem with the principle of the First Amendment. Jack Daniels just hates the First Amendment, not allowing a trademark holder to control public discourse about its mark. I mean, okay. In reality, Jack Daniel and its amicis quarrel is not with the Ninth Circuit manifestly correct rulings, but with the balance Congress and the courts have struck between trademark rights and First Amendment rights. This is why this matters, because this is coming up in a couple cases. In the case that the Onion wrote an amicus about what is parody and free speech, we have a lot of free speech cases coming up that matter. Like, that's free speech in parody in a Facebook post wherein somebody got like arrested and prosecuted. This is a case where we're looking at free speech and parody in the context of trademark rights and really trying to assert or reassert where those boundaries are so that people have them clear. I'm not surprised that they took it back up. Several amicus briefs backed Jack Daniels at the High Court, including International Trademark Association, which said, absent this court's review, the Ninth Circuit's view threatens trademark owners' ability to police their marks and protect consumers. Bennett Cooper of Dickinson Wright, an attorney for VIP, said Monday that while the company would have preferred that the court had not taken the case, this is now an opportunity for the justices to clarify the law. That is the most lawyerly appropriate PR statement I have ever heard. It is the perfect, we're disappointed, but we get it. The Supreme Court can use the case to fashion a clear national standard for parody works, it's just hard for me to say, parody works that will recognize breathing room for parodies and reconcile trademark protection with First Amendment values. I think that's fair. I think that's a fair statement. Cooper said that VIP created a transformative parody product and does not sell whiskey using the parody mark and did not simply slap Jack Daniels on a dog toy and call it parody. That's true. We're looking forward to making clear the nature of parody and why trademark laws should leave room for parodies. I think that's absolutely fair. So we'll see. I think it's a really interesting case. I can't wait to cover it more. Law and Lumber Translated, why are you taking this? Like, Your Honors, you already said no. Hold the line. Stand your ground. Say no again. But I'm very interested because now we have two parody cases going up to the Supreme Court at the same time. We have some very interesting cases being taken by the Supreme Court. I generally do not cover a ton of Supreme Court cases. I'm very interested to see what happens with Jack Daniels' dog toy case, with the Onion amicus brief case. Like, dude made a police force salty and got arrested over it. First Amendment parody case. I'm very interested to see what's going to happen with the copyright case with regard to the Andy Warhol painting of Prince and the photographer. There were some very, very interesting cases coming up. There is another one. That I'm really interested in, and it's escaping me at the moment, but it's like two cases that are paralleling going forward at the Supreme Court. So we've got some really interesting cases coming up that they are going to be taking that I'm going to be tracking. I don't track a ton of Supreme Court stuff, but Nightbot's getting salty. Sorry, Kate Johns, I didn't mean to pull that up. Nightbot was getting salty, and that was me fat fingering things. So there are some interesting things, and we will cover it because the Supreme Court is in a position to kind of redefine the law of the land with regard to speech, with regard to trademark rights, with regard to humor. Like, can the US take a joke? Can people make jokes? Where are the boundaries of that? When is it protected? When is it not protected? What does that mean for private companies? These are questions that we have to continue asking and conversations we have to continue having. But humor, I believe, matters. So we're going to keep up talking about it. All right. And this, frankly, is just a really fun and cute dog toy. Here for it. All right. Next little quick bit. That was a longer quick bit. Next little quick bit. Let's talk about it. What are we talking about next? Jen Shah. For those of you following along, Real Housewife of Salt Lake City, Jen Shah has been episode after episode this season saying, I'm innocent. The thing is that she pled guilty in real time before the season started, even though it was after the season had filmed. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens at her sentencing. Jen Shah's sentencing has been bumped. It was at the end of November. It's been bumped to December 15th. We knew that. The defense submissions for the briefs are due November 30th. The government sentencing submission is due December 7th. Jen Shah is facing a substantial amount of time, and one has to wonder how the sentencings of both the Chrisleys, reality stars, financial crimes, and Elizabeth Holmes, celebrity-ish, but entrepreneur fraud crimes, how that will impact her. What I'm very interested in seeing in those submissions is their amount of loss. Because when we got to the reporting on the day she changed her plea, we were looking at a substantial amount of restitution, millions and millions and millions in restitution, leading me to believe that the loss amount is substantial. But what's different in the Jen Shah case is that she came to a agreement with the government where they would fix the amount of restitution and they would fix the sentencing range. And we'll see that in the submissions. The judge can still go above or below that, but she took responsibility short of trial. With the Chrisleys and with Elizabeth Holmes, they both chose to go to trial, which is absolutely their right to do. But the courts sometimes will consider taking responsibility or changing a plea short of trial in a beneficial way. Also, when you go through a trial, the judge hears everything against you. When you don't go through a trial, the judge doesn't get as much information just because you haven't gone witness over witness over witness. That doesn't mean there won't be victim impact statements with Jen Shah's sentencing. We haven't seen if Jen is asking for a 2-day sentencing or just a 1-day sentencing. We haven't seen the sentencing submissions yet, but we have seen in financial crimes some substantial sentences that have just come down. And if I am Jen Shah and her family, you've got to believe that this is causing a tremendous amount of stress, or that Jen Shah is like, that's all different than me. And it's fine. They're not me. They're different than me. What they did is different than me. So we will see. We will see what happens. I think the things that are going to hurt Jen Shah when it comes to her sentencing are the amount of victims. And the fact that there are those substantial allegations with regard to the targeted victims being above 50 years old. I struggle to say elderly because I don't think that's accurate, but the law considers 50-55 to be of a different class of victim for fraud crimes. So the amount of victims is going to count against her. Taking responsibility earlier and the government pinning the low end and the high end of her term and asking for a term within that will help her. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. And we'll see what happens when Stu Smith is sentenced. I don't have his sentencing date in front of me. I should have grabbed it. I didn't. So we'll see what happens when it comes time for Jen Shah's sentencing. The Lonely Gemini asked, can the judge take into consideration her actions on the show? I wonder if the government will play video after video after video of her saying, I'm innocent, I'm innocent, I'm innocent. But the government let her take responsibility. And with that, they might not. I'm gonna give you more of my opinion on that when we see the sentencing memos. Is that fair? I think that's fair. So once I see the sentencing memos, I'll give you more thoughts on that. So with that, let us move on to talk about Elizabeth Holmes real quick. Quick. And when I say quick, I mean quick. Y'all saw how much I could not stop. I could not stop with those sentencing memos in Elizabeth Holmes. The hand-wringing over the fact that Elizabeth Holmes's family was like, she already lost all her stocks, Your Honor. The disconnect from reality in those sentencing memos was wild to me. Wild to me. I was like, what? She lost her stocks. People were put at risk. People took their own lives because of this case. Like, what? And then, you have her partner saying that she is not really a salesperson fraudster. She is more of a zealot who believes things with a religious fervor. And I was like, oh, that's wild. So, what we saw was Elizabeth Holmes get sentenced to 11 years in prison. They have not fixed the amount of restitution yet. So, there will be more hearings with regard to the Elizabeth Holmes case for her to, for her, or for the lawyers, really, all of the lawyers to fight over the amount of restitution. So, that has not been determined yet. She has not turned herself into custody. She remains out of custody. I put it up on Twitter. Where is it? She, I believe, turns herself in April. If I'm not conflating these two cases together, there's been a lot of sentencings, but I believe, yes, me. I'm literally referencing my own Twitter at the moment. Oh, but I'm on the wrong screen. Hold on. Let's put this over here. Let's see. Yeah, she is. Oh, I had pulled it up. Let me pull it up again. She is sentenced. Holmes will surrender for custody on April 27th, which makes me wonder her due date. Holmes, it's been confirmed, is pregnant with her second. She is sentenced to 11.25 years federal prison. Government recommended 15. It's close to the government's recommendation. Like normally the government's recommendation gets discounted more than that. We will also see what happens at early December, December 5th or 7th with Sunny Balwani being sentenced. I'm interested to see what his sentence will be and whether it will be more. He was more in charge of the lab than she was. There were counts that Elizabeth Holmes was not convicted of. There were counts that that were hung juries. Will the government just dismiss those counts now that she's been sentenced? Maybe. Will the government try her again for those counts that hung? It doesn't seem like there's much of a point, but maybe they will. So after restitution's done, maybe we'll see those counts get dismissed. I will keep an eye on that. And I'm going to keep an eye on the Balwani sentencing. But I get asked this a lot, and this is going to come up as we move into talking about the Chrisleys. The federal system and the state systems in the US are different. State systems have entirely different calculations, and sometimes they can vary county by county or, jurisdiction by jurisdiction on how much time you actually serve when you get a sentence. In Los Angeles, it can be you can serve less than 50% of your sentence, and that tends to be about the norm, is less than 50%. So if you get 3 years, you could get literally time served and get out if you've been in custody waiting for trial. So depending on where you are, it varies greatly by state. The federal government got rid of parole. They do supervised release after sentencing, or can do supervised release after sentencing. But the custody time credit that you get, the math that you do with federal cases, works out to about 85%. So it's not as if they are setting you aside. You get about 50 days credit per year. So you are serving most of your time. It's why federal sentences sometimes take me time to wrap my head around, because they are lower than state sentences, but you serve more time. So when you look at state sentences, you're like, oh, that's a whole lot of time, but you're actually not serving it. So when you're considering sentencing, you're actually considering, as a court or as a district attorney or as a defense attorney, you're talking to the person about the impact of their life. So you're really looking about 80 to 85% of time that you will be serving. So we'll see with Elizabeth Holmes. It's 11 years is going to be a substantial amount of time. And we're going to see that with others as well. There was one more update we're going to give about a YouTuber who had gotten into it with Todd Chrisley and gotten into it, but I need to check and see. Well, let me just answer a question. Phone is good after. Sorry. Today's a busy day because of sentencings. So with that, hi, Chris, if you're watching, I texted you back. I can see them when I'm streaming and it helps. So with that, we've got one more quick bit and then we're moving on. Quick bit. Yes, a lot of you that have followed me since we started covering the Toddy Westbrook case, there is a YouTuber who was sued by Toddy Westbrook, sued by Todd Chrisley, and is being sued by 7M, which is a TikToker talent management company. There was a hearing yesterday. I asked some of those that attended the hearing what happened at the hearing. I did not attend the hearing, and I was like, so y'all, what happened? The purpose of the hearing was to look at a default. I covered this a while back. I didn't cover it much in depth. Most of you are just like, we don't care. I get it. The defendant in that case failed to answer. And the lawyer was like, yeah, personal life stuff happened and it didn't get filed. In Minnesota, there are rules about defaults that are pretty stringent, but judges don't like defaults because defaults mean you lose, you win without hearing the merits, without doing discovery, without anything else. So the 7M filed for a default. Hey, they didn't respond. They should have responded and they didn't respond. So with them not responding, then we get a default. So this hearing was for the default. The defense doesn't really have a reason that it wasn't filed other than the judge was like, other than the defense attorney had personal family things going on and didn't get the default filed. It was a missed deadline. The default didn't get filed. There is really no other excuse than a, whoopsie doodle. It didn't get filed. Nothing else. But the default rules exist so that you aren't damaged if this goes on. The argument from the defense is they're not damaged. We're just at the beginning of the case. It's fine. The plaintiff who sued the YouTuber said, look, there's not even a reasonable defense. You should grant the default. And the judge could have just said yes or no at the hearing yesterday. That's what it was there for. And instead, the judge said, I'm going to respond within 90 days. So the judge is going to respond within 90 days. So we'll hear within 90 days. Here's my read on that. Again, did not attend the hearing. Trusted the people I asked about what happened at the hearing. I know that Truth Sleuth attended the hearing and will be doing a video on it over on her YouTube channel. I'm sure others attended the hearing and will be covering it as well. If the judge was inclined to just not grant the dismissal, why not just say, I'm not granting the default? Why not just not grant the default? 90 days draws out your case. They shouldn't be doing discovery while they're waiting for the default, because if I'm the plaintiff in that case and I'm alleging that I've been defamed by somebody on a public platform who keeps talking about it, I'm not going to turn over any discovery until I know I absolutely have to, because I don't trust that person's not going to go take that discovery and put it all over the internet. No trust, no faith at all that the discovery process won't be abused. So it delays the case for 90 days. Courts don't tend to delay their own cases. Why delay the case? Why delay the case anymore unless you are considering granting it and need a little bit more time? And I think the court might be considering granting it and needs more time because courts don't like granting defaults. And with that, we're going to move on. I see a lot of you asking, who is the YouTuber? The YouTuber is nondescript and someone who we will not name, lest we summon that YouTuber to some kind of meltdown on the internet. And I just don't want to direct any attention to them. This is like the third, fourth plus time that they've been sued for defamation. The Westbrook case settled. The Chrisley case settled. We'll see what happens with this one. We'll see. We'll see. So, Holly Brown said Nate streamed it live and got caught. You can't stream Zoom hearings. This is my take on it from understanding the local rules, but most courts, unless the court is streaming it to YouTube, those hearings are open to the public, but cannot be recorded, cannot be rebroadcast. Sometimes the courts say can't be live tweeted. You listen, you take notes, and then you report. Streaming it is probably against the rules. To put it mildly, very, very against the rules. Anyway, I'm sure they know that. All right, so let us move on. We need to get into the Chrisley convictions. We're going to talk about what happened, and then we're going to look at some of the sentencing memos, and then we are going to go to it. So let's go. My stream is freezing and stuttering. I am not seeing that on my end. That might be YouTube. So Stardust is saying too, that might be YouTube. I don't know because I can't see it on my end. So let us continue on. Let us continue on. Um, yeah, it is time. It is time to move on. And then we will get to Q&A. So if you guys have questions about the Chrisleys, I will try to grab them. But also if you put a question mark or say question or put a Q, I know it's a question and I can grab it. So we'll go from there. Cheers. Let us move on. Lawn Lumber said blame StreamYard. Sure. We will. Absolutely. I am not Miguelina. Miguelina asked if I was on Wi-Fi. I am not. I'm wondering if that's a StreamYard issue, which is very frustrating, but I don't want to refresh it. And we will reach out to StreamYard. Actually, Miguelina, if you can, because our chat is so chill, if you could on the back end reach out to StreamYard's customer service, they have a chat window, and just have them take a look at the stream and ask them, yo, WTF, I would very much appreciate it. Thank you. Because it's not on my end. Our Wi-Fi is cracking. So if you'll ask their customer service to fix it, I would appreciate it. Thank you. All right, let's talk about the Chrisleys. As long as the audio is good, y'all don't need to see me. Know what I look like. The hair's down today. Maybe we want to just revel in the hair's gloriousness today. We'll just revel in the gloriousness. Let's talk about the Chrisley sentencings. Y'all ready? I'm ready. All right, let me take a look. I need to answer. I told y'all it was a busy day. It's a busy day. Okay. All right. Let us go. Todd Chrisley and Julie Chrisley, after a trial down in Georgia, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 weeks of trial. It happened right during the Depp Heard trial. I don't remember. Time got very fuzzy because time is a construct. Were both convicted of a substantial amount of counts of tax evasion, bank fraud, things like that. So we are going to go through some of that today. I've covered their motion for new trial. Their motion for new trial was denied. A lot of motions have come in, but their motion for new trial was denied. Personal opinion. I still think they have a strong argument on appeal. I do. I think they have a strong argument on appeal. I think they will make that appeal. I think at the end of this, the attorneys will ask for a stay pending appeal. I don't know if that will be granted given the amount of time that they are being sentenced to. I imagine that Elizabeth Holmes's attorneys will ask for a stay pending appeal. I don't know if that will be granted. When there is this amount of time, I think that the court will just say, no, you can start serving your time and the appeal can run. But we will see. The Chrisleys have been out of custody this entire time, it seems without incident. And with that, we will see what happens. We're going to go to a quick breakdown from the New York Times. The New York Times is reporting that both will turn themselves in early January. And so I think that's appropriate. I saw reports that their son had been in a pretty serious car accident here in Nashville on the 65, which is, look, man, I have a kid that's not far away from driving. It scares the shit out of me. Scares the shit out of me. So I can only imagine that that's quite a lot for their family to deal with in addition to this sentencing. So again, thank you for being law nerds. I know some of you very much like the Chrisleys, some of you very much don't like the Chrisleys, but again, this is a family that is going through it, that a lot of people have watched on TV for many years and have warm feelings to. I find the Chrisleys to be entertaining, but the government is not amused. What I do appreciate, like there's a part of me that has a dark sense of humor. I mean, I was a DA for over 10 years. And then, so there's a part of me that expected more quippy headlines. And then there's a part of me that actually respects that the media kind of refrained. There were not a lot of headlines that was like, looks like Chrisley doesn't know best, or reality is setting in for reality TV stars. We didn't see a lot of that. We saw a lot of just straight up reporting, which I think is fair, that we're just seeing they were sentenced to prison. So we're going to talk about that. There is a difference in these sentences. I'll tell you why I think that is, and we will go forward. So thank you all. Thank you all for just, we treat everyone like a human in these cases. And with some, it's harder. Daryl Brooks caused so much damage. James Spears, there are some that it just boils rage. And then there are some where you're just like, look, you can't do what the government's saying you do. There are things in this trial that still don't sit well with me, so I still have questions. There is just something about this case that does not sit well for me. So my energy for the Chrisleys being sentenced to prison and my energy for Elizabeth Holmes being sentenced to prison are completely different. But I think that that's kind of the point in our criminal system is each and every single case needs to be treated for that case. Yes, there are guidelines. Yes, there are ranges, but everything you need to look at each case and look at the people involved in that case. So, again, this is a family, and with the amount of time they're sentenced to, I don't know if they will be allowed to stagger when they turn themselves in, or if both of them will be going, into custody at the same time, which is very possible. Which means they are going to have to figure out who is taking care of their younger kids. I believe their granddaughter lives with them who's 10. So, and they have Nanny Faye, their matriarch is battling cancer. So it's going to impact their family substantially. So let us take a look at this reporting and take a look at what they were sentenced to. Todd and Julie Chrisley, reality TV stars, are sentenced to prison for fraud and tax evasion. And it's the tax evasion that's bugging me. Look, most of the time I look at motions for a new trial and I'm like, good luck with that. With this one, I have a lot of questions about that. I really do have questions about that IRS testimony. I just do. And I don't know if those questions will get answered, but it's going to get appealed, and then we'll see where it goes from there. The stars of Chrisley Knows Best were convicted in June of conspiring to defraud banks out of more than $30 million and evading taxes for several years. So most of the victims in this are banks. Most of those banks went under in the 2008 bank crash. And so the FDIC is one of the big victims here. Todd and Julie Chrisley, stars of the reality TV show Chrisley Knows Best, were sentenced on Monday to federal prison after being convicted of defrauding banks to obtain more than $30 million in personal loans and evading taxes to fund a lavish lifestyle. Lavish lifestyle, man. We need lavish lifestyle hoodies or something. Every case we're covering lately involves lavish lifestyle. Every single case. Lavish lifestyle. But also, I wonder if it's going to make people hesitant to be on reality TV because their lives get so picked apart. I don't know. We saw it with the Judices. We see it with Erica Girardi. We see it with Jen Shah. We see it with others that are not involved in criminality, that their lives get picked apart. But part of reality TV is to watch people live in a way that you don't live. I don't know. Where does reality TV go from here? That's a conversation for another day. Judge Eleanor Ross of the United States District Court in Atlanta sentenced Mr. Chrisley, 54, to 12 years federal prison, Ms. Chrisley, 49, to 7 years prison, according to the Justice Department. Oh, I wonder if there's a press release. We'll go there next. They will also be on probation for 3 years upon their release, and they will have to pay restitution, an amount to be determined later, which means there will be a restitution hearing to determine how much. The couple who presented themselves on TV as real estate moguls with luxurious lifestyles were convicted in June of conspiring to defraud banks and evading taxes for several years. After the 3-week trial, a jury found the couple guilty on 8 counts of financial fraud, 2 counts of tax evasion. Ms. Chrisley was convicted on an additional count of wire fraud and obstruction of justice. James Dorsey, an IRS criminal investigation agent, said in a statement on Monday that the Chrisleys had committed the crimes in an effort to minimize their tax liability. Everyone who pays taxes does things with their accountants in an effort to minimize their tax liability. I'm just saying. But project an image of wealth. This sentence serves notice that no matter a person's celebrity status, there are severe consequences for defrauding the American tax system. And I really do think they weren't mad. I really think they weren't mad about the bank fraud. Most of those banks went under. The loans were the types of loans that caused the banks to go under in 2008. I am not a financial expert, but the IRS is just like, fuck you, give me my money. And also we've shifted, we've shifted, and the IRS has shifted, and juries' perceptions have shifted, where they're like, no, you don't get to just not pay your taxes. I don't care if you're rich. I don't care if you're famous. Pay your taxes. We all have to pay our taxes. So with that, I'm not surprised that they're focusing on the tax part of this, which is a much smaller part, and which is where my questions are with the IRS agent saying that the IRS saying in the testimony that the taxes hadn't been paid, even though they had been. And that's why I have a lot of questions about that IRS testimony. But this is also why I say, me still sidebarring. I need a sidebar noise. What's our sidebar noise? Still sidebarring. This is why I say that if Erica Girardi is worried about anything, it's not the earrings being auctioned. It's not what people say in the media. It needs to be the IRS. That needs to be where the concern is. The concern needs to be for the IRS because the IRS is going to come. This is a great question from the chat. Question: did their accountant also face charges? Their accountant was sentenced to 36 months, so like 3 years in custody. But the accountant, it seemed, was not involved in this for as much time and had much less time. I'm going to talk about why it's my opinion that Todd Chrisley got more time. We'll talk about that in a minute, even though Julie Chrisley was convicted of more charges, but we'll get there. Stephen Friedberg, a lawyer for Ms. Chrisley, said on Monday night that Judge Ross was allowing them to report to prison after January 1st. So I think that's allowing them. I think that goes for both Chrisleys to report after the first of the year. In documents filed on Friday, Friedberg and another lawyer for Ms. Chrisley asked that she be given a lesser sentence with a combination of probation, restitution, and community service so she could care for her children and ailing mother. The attorney also asked the judge to consider staggering the couple's sentences until their youngest daughter graduated high school or turned 18 years old, which I think that kid's 10 or 11. In a sentencing memo, prosecutors said Mr. Chrisley could serve more than 21 years in prison. Ms. Chrisley could serve more than 12 years based on the sentencing guidelines. Quote, the Chrisleys have built an empire based on a lie that their wealth came from dedication and hard work, prosecutors said. The jury's unanimous verdict sets the record straight. Todd and Julie Chrisley are career swindlers who have made a living by jumping from one fraud scheme to another, lying to banks, stiffing vendors, and evading taxes at every corner. With the help of a former business partner, the Chrisleys used fake bank statements, audit reports, and personal finance statements to defraud banks in the Atlanta area to get more than $36 million in personal loans, according to the Justice Department. The couple used that money to buy luxury cars, real estate, and other lavish goods. After they spent all of the money, Mr. Chrisley filed for bankruptcy, the Justice Department said. Then what I don't hear, though, is that there was bankruptcy fraud, which, again, there are pieces of this story that just don't make sense to me in my brain. Because if you are, I don't know, the fact that they didn't charge any bankruptcy fraud is strange to me. So there's that. After earning millions of dollars from their reality TV show, the couple conspired to defraud the IRS with the help of their accountant, Peter Tarantino, 60, prosecutors say. Tarantino's the one that got 36 months. To avoid paying about $500,000 in delinquent taxes owed by Mr. Chrisley, the couple opened corporate bank accounts in Mr. Chrisley's name, or in Miss Chrisley's name, in Julie's name, according to the Justice Department. But when the IRS asked for information about the accounts in Julie's name, the couple changed ownership of their corporate bank account to another family member to hide their income from the IRS, the department said. Quote, later, after learning about the grand jury investigations, Julie Chrisley filed a false document to a grand jury subpoena to make it look as if the couple had not lied to a bank when they moved the ownership of the corporate account to a relative, the Justice Department said. The New York Times is very, very clear to tell you that this is the Justice Department, and this is what the Justice Department is saying. The couple did not file or pay taxes in 2013, 14, 15, and 16. And as part of a scheme, Tarantino filed 2 corporate tax returns for the loan-out company that falsely claimed that the company did not earn any money or make distributions in 2015 or 2016, according to the Justice Department. Along with sentencing the Chrisleys on Monday, Judge Ross sentenced Tarantino to 3 years and 3 years of probation. He was convicted in June of filing a false corporate tax return for the Chrisleys. The U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Georgia said in a statement that the length of the Chrisley sentences reflected the magnitude of their criminal scheme adding that they should serve as a warning to others tempted to exploit our nation's community banking systems for unlawful personal gain. That's the one that focused on the banks, not on the banks, not on the taxes. So let's see. Law Lumber said, what I always tell my clients, you won't get charged with bankruptcy fraud, but you can bet you'll get charged with all the other fraud they can find. I wonder if it's because they feel juries won't understand bankruptcy fraud. This is the Department of Justice's release. Television personality sentenced to years in federal prison for fraud and tax evasion. I imagine that the New York Times attorney or New York Times article just copies this, but I really do want to see if they talk about some of the other details. Todd and Julie Chrisley have been sentenced to 12 and 7 years, respectively, in a federal prison after a jury convicted them of bank and tax fraud. Over the course of a decade, the defendants defrauded banks out of tens of millions of dollars while evading payment of their federal taxes. Their lengthy sentences reflect the magnitude of their crimes, of their criminal scheme, and should serve as a warning to others. It says, as this sentence proves, when you lie, cheat, and steal, justice is blind to your fame, fortune, and position. I mean, I guarantee you the Chrisleys didn't spend $30 million on their defense like Elizabeth Holmes did, because we would have probably heard about it by now. Carrie Farley, special agent in charge of the FBI Atlanta, said the FBI is proud of the work with our law enforcement partners at the IRS and the U.S. Attorney's Office to pursue and prosecute individuals that are driven by greed to evade the law. The Chrisleys defrauded financial institutions and the federal government through tax evasion and other fraudulent means in an effort to minimize their tax liability and to build an image of wealth. The sentencing serves as notice that no matter a person's celebrity status, there are severe consequences for defrauding the American tax system. There should also be consequences if they find that the IRS agent did not tell the truth on the stand, because I've got questions. According to U.S. Attorney Buchanan, the charges and other information presented to court, Todd and Julie Chrisley conspired to defraud community banks in the Atlanta area to obtain more than $36 million in personal loans. Let's see. After spending all the money, Todd Chrisley filed for bankruptcy and walked away from more than $20 million of these fraudulently obtained loans. Later, while earning millions from their TV show, Todd and Julie Chrisley, along with their accountant, Peter Tarantino, conspired to defraud the IRS. Throughout the conspiracy, the Chrisleys operated a loan-out company, which inherently is not a problem, to evade collection of $500,000 in delinquent taxes owned by Todd Chrisley. The Chrisleys opened and kept the corporate bank accounts only in Julie Chrisley's name, but after the IRS requested information about bank accounts in Julie Chrisley's name, the Chrisleys transferred ownership of the corporate bank account to a relative to further conceal income from the IRS. In addition, the Chrisleys failed to file tax returns or pay taxes 2013, 14, 15, and 16. As a part of the tax evasion scheme, Tarantino was convicted of filing false returns. The Chrisleys attempted to obstruct justice before being charged, as well as during the trial. It says, after learning of the grand jury investigation, Julie submitted a fraudulent document. We heard about that. On June 7th, the jury convicted the Chrisleys of all counts of the indictment, including conspiracy to commit bank fraud, wire fraud, conspiracy to commit tax evasion. The jury convicted Julie Chrisley of the additional charges. Let's see. The judge's sentences as follows. Todd Chrisley, 54, 12 years, followed by 3 years of essentially probation. Julie Chrisley, 7 years, 3 years of probation. Peter Tarantino, 3 years, 3 years of probation, which also means he probably won't be able to continue in his chosen profession with the filing the false statements. As part of sentencing, the court ordered both Todd and Julie Chrisley to pay restitution. We'll determine later. I just wanted to know if they had requested staggered sentence and if that had been granted or denied. We're going to look at a few more articles because each one has a bit more information, which is the hard thing when you're piecing together stuff from not being there. Because it is Thanksgiving week and I didn't drive to Atlanta. And now I'm just like, All right, let's go to Law 360 and see if we get some more information. We're looking at this together, and then we'll look at some of those sentencing memos. So let's see. Question. Amber said, will they serve all of that, or do they have a good chance of getting out early? They will not serve every single day of it, but they will serve 80 to 85% of it. So they will serve this is a substantial amount of time in federal custody. So Lisa Dempsey is saying staggered sentences were denied. I haven't seen that anywhere, but thank you. I wouldn't be surprised if that were the case based on the length of the sentence. Oh, Miguelina, yes, thank you. I forgot to turn off my VPN. And it's making StreamYard salty. Okay, we can. All right, there we go. Sorry about that. That was my fault. In my pre-flight checklist, what I forgot to do was pause my VPN. So there we go. Jenny asked question, will the accountant be able to work as an accountant after the prison sentence is done? I don't know. I imagine not. I imagine when you get convicted of filing false tax returns that you lose your ability to do it. So I imagine not. But again, I'm sure there are accountants in the chat. It would very much surprise me if that didn't lose your licensure. And if you were, I mean, I imagine you could still, if you got hired, but it's a liability if you got hired to work as like a behind the scenes tax preparer. I imagine this is the end of the road for that chosen profession, because I can't imagine that it wouldn't be that your licensing, like as a CPA, that your licensing would get yoinked, and then your ability to file with the IRS, I imagine, would also get removed. So I think probably not. But as Beach Rando was saying, could probably work under another firm. But I think if you work under another firm, it might open the firm up to questions. So that. All right. Chrisley sentenced to prison in $36 million bank fraud case. This is coming from Rosie Manis in Law 360, who did a lot of the reporting down in Atlanta on the Cardi B Tasha K case, to the best of my memory. Todd and Julie Chrisley of reality TV show Chrisley Knows Best were sentenced Monday evening by a federal judge in Atlanta to 12 and 7 years prison, respectively, and ordered to pay $17.2 million in restitution in relation to a $36 million bank fraud scheme. The Chrisleys both addressed the judge. This is what I wanted to hear about who had spoken at sentencing. Both addressed the judge before being sentenced in a courtroom where their adult children and other supporters gathered. Prior to this sentencing, there were a number of motions asking for the courtroom to be sealed to allow for the minor children, the children under 18, to speak in the sentencing via Zoom. I don't know if that happened or not, but that was requested. The court would have allowed that to happen. So we'll see. Lisa, thank you so much. I'll go take a look at TMZ. They look, as I have a love-hate relationship with TMZ, but a lot of the time they do get their reporting accurate. So we'll go take a look. Let's see. So the courtroom, the adult children and supporters were in the courtroom, and both of the Chrisleys spoke at their sentencing. Neither admitted the charges for which they were convicted by a jury in June. Todd Chrisley said his wife of 27 years had a limited role in the bank fraud scheme and deserved a lesser punishment than him. And if the evidence bore that out, so you will see that with the sentencing too. If what the evidence showed is that, because in the sentencing memo, there are emails back and forth from Todd Chrisley, the individual who had been a former business partner of Todd Chrisley, who testified that he was part of this, he took full immunity, which is an interesting option for the feds, but he got full immunity to dime out the Chrisleys. So that dude gets full immunity and said he and Todd were in on it together. So with that testimony, it's not surprising to me that the judge would look at Todd as the more culpable party. And we'll look at the sentencing memos. If Todd's the one sending emails and submitting documents and stuff, it's not surprising that the court will put Todd at the most culpable, Julie at lesser culpability, and then the accountant, depending on how long he was working with them, at lesser culpability, because the accountant was only convicted, I think, of 2 or 3 counts of those returns that came later in the time frame of the scheme. Tracy Sire said, so Todd admitted to the fraud. The languaging of this is confusing to me, and I wasn't there, so read it as you will, because it said neither admitted charges for which they were convicted. Todd said his wife had a limited role and deserves lesser punishment than him. I don't know if Todd said his wife had a limited role in the business dealings. I don't know. So I don't know. I can read it both ways. I can see why you can read it both ways. I don't know. Did he say limited role in the business, or did he say limited role in the bank fraud scheme? Don't know. We weren't there. And it's not a direct quote. So this paragraph is confusing to me, or this sentence. Quote, as I'm sure you can imagine, this is an enormously sad day for me and my family. He told the judge, Julie should not be punished on the scale that I'm punished. And if that's just simply the statement, then it's she wasn't as involved in the business, or just don't sentence my wife. Like, my family needs her. Sentence me, don't sentence her. Todd Chrisley, 54, also said that he never took out a bank loan with the intention of not paying it back. He said he made some terrible investments without knowing how the real estate crash of 2008 would affect his business. I mean, I think the banks made a bunch of terrible loans during that time too, not realizing how the bank crash of 2008 would affect business, but the government went and bailed them out. Okay, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop. There's so much more. A lot of these bank loans go back to 2008, and prosecuting them in 2022 feels odd to me, especially with everything that went down during the bank crash of 2008. But again, I am not a financial expert, so what do I know? Julie Chrisley, 49, spoke through tears as she had just addressed Judge Ross. She said their 10-year-old granddaughter, Chloe, of whom they have custody, is struggling with issues related to trauma from her early years and has regressed because of the case, and that their 16-year-old son, Grayson, also needs their support. Quote, to hear your 10-year-old say she doesn't want to live if her mommy goes away is heartbreaking, because no child should ever want to feel that way, Julie Chrisley said. Chloe and Grayson and the rest of my family need me to be there. Counsel for the Chrisleys said after sentencing that they will be filing appeals. I don't doubt that. Earlier in the day, the Chrisleys' former accountant was sentenced to 3 years and a fine of $3,500 for his involvement in the tax evasion. The court didn't think he had that much involvement, clearly. Judge Ross told the Chrisleys that she was saddened that they would be separated from their young children, but that burden is one that they must bear as the people, quote, who did not stop to think about their conduct and how punishment for that conduct would impact the children. So the judges said, that's unfortunate, but there are consequences, and these are the consequences. And that's essentially what the judge said. There are consequences here. The judge noted that neither of the Chrisleys had taken responsibility for their offenses or showed remorse throughout the case. At every turn and corner, the couple proffered objections and explanations, she said. Here's what's hard for me, especially in fraud cases. The Darrell Brooks case and some of the violent crime cases are different. Here's what's hard for me in fraud cases. Cases like Jen Shah, cases like this, even cases like Elizabeth Holmes. When you are dealing with frauds, they're not always as clear cut. They're not. Especially, don't make me say, you just don't understand venture capital, because I think that was a douchey excuse. But our criminal justice system is set up in a way that you are presumed innocent until you're found guilty. And part of defending your innocence is, offering explanations and objections. You're supposed to poke holes in the government's case. And I don't like seeing that held against people, saying that, oh, well, they made objections at every turn. Well, that's kind of what they're supposed to do. And if they're still appealing, then that's kind of what they're supposed to do. So it's just hard for me when it's like they never accept a responsibility. Even in criminal cases, it's hard because you have the presumption of innocence and you are allowed to fight your case. So when it's used against you that you fought your case, that almost holds the presumption of innocence against you. So it's for me, it's a push and a pull. When you look at these cases, they're supposed to offer explanations. That's defending yourself. So holding defense against themselves is one thing. I don't know if I don't know. I don't know if they showed remorse, didn't show remorse. We'll see. We'll just see what happens. So the court is saying that they don't believe there was any remorse or acceptance of wrongdoing, and the Chrisleys are saying we're still appealing. So, you know, um, we'll see. I never heard any admission of any wrongdoing or any remorse. Well, they're still saying there wasn't any wrongdoing, so no, you're probably not going to hear that. I never really heard any admission of wrongdoing or any remorse at all throughout this process, and that rings very true to me, Judge Ross said. It's very significant to me. I heard Mr. Chrisley say that he always intended to pay back these loans, but I think it's pretty easy to just throw that out there. What's more significant is any action that reflects an intention to repay, and that's something I've not seen. The fact that the Chrisleys have now paid all the taxes at issue is also not a defense, Judge Ross said. She said it's apparent that the Chrisleys have good hearts, but that good hearts are often turned by greed. I cannot ignore the egregious greed and flamboyance in this case, she said. Okay. The restitution amount, reflecting the federal government's conservative estimate of the total loss to financial institutions as a result of the Chrisleys' offenses, was jointly and severally imposed on the couple. They both must spend 3 years after prison on supervised release and pay the special assessment. So we'll see how much, but the judge is clearly offended by the egregious greed and the flaunting of wealth. Let's keep going. Judge Ross granted the Chrisleys' request that she recommend they be incarcerated at federal prisons in Pensacola and Tallahassee. Both are allowed to voluntarily surrender themselves to prison, and Julie Chrisley doesn't have to do so until mid-January, which makes me wonder when Todd is surrendering, because that is unclear. The Chrisleys' bank fraud scheme related to 29 loans they received from almost a dozen banks, many of which were community banks in Atlanta, totaling $36 million. The loans made over several years from 2006. So they're prosecuting things from 2006 through like 2008. It put 3 banks into receivership, prosecutors say. So they're saying that their loans or failure to pay back their loans caused those banks to go under. The Chrisleys allegedly used false documents to secure the loans, including representations that Todd Chrisley had about $4 million in a Merrill Lynch account. A former manager of their Atlanta-based real estate business, Mark Braddock, was the government's key informant and witness in this case. He's the one that took full immunity from prosecution and was repeatedly blamed by the Chrisleys for the bank fraud. He did admit to forging shit from them. So, the Chrisleys' tax evasion convictions relate to their failure to timely file tax returns and pay outstanding taxes over several years. Prosecutors say that they used the company that they were paid through for their reality TV show to hide Todd Chrisley's income, so the IRS couldn't collect outstanding taxes for 2009. The government sought prison terms of 17 and a half years and 12 years for Todd and Julie, respectively, based on the sentencing guidelines. Todd was facing between 14 and 17 and a half, Julie between 10 and 12 and a half, based on the government's estimation. Peters said that the Chrisleys built an empire based on lies and greed. They were already rich when they sought tens of millions in bank loans, making more than $600,000 a month in their real estate business, and were burning through $500,000 on a monthly basis, she said. It's a lot of money. Sure is a lot of money. I'm very curious as to how many properties that relates to, because I have no idea. Between 2013 and 2017, the Chrisleys made about $6.2 million through their reality TV show, which was based on their quote-unquote fancy lifestyle. Where's lavish? Why doesn't it say lavish? And did everything they could to shield that income from the IRS. She played for the court a video from the show in which Todd Chrisley boasted about their 30,000 square foot house north of Atlanta and yearly clothing bill in excess of $300,000. The Chrisleys currently live in Nashville, Tennessee. Todd and Julie Chrisley were a walking crime wave, Peter said. They cheat and they lie at every opportunity, at every corner, when it benefits them. They also refuse to pay contractors and vendors, even their own lawyers. The shade. Lawyers find ways to get paid, I'll tell you what. They also manipulated and at times victimized their own family members and friends in furtherance of their crimes. Counsel for the Chrisleys made statements Todd Chrisley made. Counsel for the Chrisleys said statements Todd Chrisley made for the TV show were sizzle. to drum up interest. That's what is going to happen in the Shah case if they try to use TV. What you say on TV is going to come back. It's going to come back. It's going to come back. Is sizzle to look, the argument is reality TV is not all the way real. People exaggerate. Is sizzle to drum up interest, and that the banks have failed. And the banks that failed did so because the crash in the real estate market. The defense team said Braddock enjoys a good life at the beach despite admitting to being the orchestrator of the bank fraud, which is, again, the Braddock stuff is really interesting to me. It doesn't sit well with me. It's odd that he was granted full immunity. It's very odd that he was granted full immunity if he was the one orchestrating this. Full immunity is a big ask, a big ask. So, but he got full immunity to turn on the Chrisleys, which means somebody was offended and wanted to prosecute this case. Look, when you're looking at stuff going back to 2008, I don't think it took him that long to figure it out. There is something about this case that I cannot put my finger on that does not sit well with me still. Todd Chrisley's attorney, Bruce Morris of Finestone, Morris and White, said his client is a devoted husband, father, grandfather, and friend. Todd Chrisley has fibromyalgia and anxiety and is likely, based on a family history of illness, to develop a life-shortening condition. That's vague, he said. So they went for don't sentence him long because, life. He's a human being capable of good, Morris said. The government said he made lots of money and didn't pay taxes, and that's true to some extent, but payments were made along the way. Every penny of tax has been paid for the years in question. Julie Chrisley's attorney said she is a different person today than when the scheme occurred and is unlikely to reoffend. He said the Chrisleys do not think they're above the law and that Julie Chrisley is widely regarded as a good friend and motherly figure. Quote, this has weighed on her. She's been publicly humiliated and embarrassed, the attorney said. In times of distress and hardship, people turn to Julie Chrisley. Even if they don't turn to her, Julie Chrisley offers her money and her presence to assist with all different kinds of problems. She's made a huge difference in other people's lives. Tarantino, 60, also briefly addressed the court before he was sentenced, saying he never managed finding himself in this place. I ask you for mercy, not only for myself, but those around me who rely on me for financial, emotional, and physical support, he told Judge Ross. Tarantino's attorney said his client is a good man with good character who regularly helps other and assists charitable organizations. He said Tarantino was paid on an hourly rate by the Chrisleys and didn't otherwise benefit from the offending, which is part of it. This was what the attorney said. He didn't share in the loot. He didn't get lavish gifts. He didn't get paid under the table. There was a lot happening that he didn't know about and wasn't involved in. Peters acknowledged that Tarantino didn't get rich from the scheme, but was probably swept up in the idea of working for reality TV stars, describing Chrisley as a persuasive and charismatic criminal. But she said Tarantino was the listed power of attorney for the Chrisleys and acted as the couple's mouthpiece and shield in dealing with the IRS, lying to federal officers in an attempt to hide and protect the Chrisleys' money from being collected for long delinquent tax debts. Look, pay your taxes. Pay your taxes. Pay your taxes. He was not in over his head, Peters said. Peter Tarantino was a professional, trained, educated, and sophisticated business person who used his special and trained skills as a tax preparer and accountant to help his clients cheat the system. He abused and misled the IRS. Okay, abused the IRS is strong language for me. Just strong language for me. Judge Ross granted Tarantino's request to serve his prison term at a federal facility within the Maxwell Air Force Base in Montgomery, Alabama. She also granted the request that he be allowed to report for his sentence no earlier than May 1st, given that he's due to have hip surgery in February. Yeah, the federal government's like, we'd like to not pay for your hip replacement recovery. You go ahead and do that first, and then we'll be back. So with that, we're going to look at the sentencings just real quick if y'all are still interested. But that's all the reporting. I think that between those three different reports, we got a big idea of awkward sentence. We got a good idea of not just what was said at sentencing, what the government argued, the clips that they played. It's these cases, and we're going to keep seeing these cases, are going to impact the way people are on reality TV. I'm sure we all feel bad for the IRS. Lol. I mean, do any of you feel personally victimized by the IRS? The IRS causes me so much stress. It causes me for all of the international crew, you are welcome to drop your country flags or where you're at down below. For all of the international crew, US taxes go something like this. Hey, you owe us money. How much? You figure it out. You figure it out and tell us. And then if you get it wrong, go to prison. And so taxes are tremendously complex when you're running multiple business, tremendously complex. But that leaves the tax system rife for abuse. And we see that abuse by people who have money. Why? Because you can't abuse the tax system if you can't use the tax system to your advantage. The tax system is a whole bunch of rules written by members of Congress who also benefit from those rules. Oh my God, I'm sorry to rant. It's just, tax was one of my favorite subjects in law school because I was fascinated by the behavioral control of the tax system in the US, and that the tax system was being used as kind of a bargaining football for lobbying groups. It's like, we want more people to buy SUVs. Let's give them a tax break. We want more people to do this. Let's make it a tax write-off. There are these tremendously complex rules that don't apply to people unless they have enough money to play the rules of the game. So the people with the most money get to play the game and hope that they don't get caught. And it is a game that is written by Congress that you have to have professionals to help you engage in to figure out where the rules are. Some of those rules are a little bit vague. And so some accountants are like, we do this or we do that. Look. And then the IRS is like, you guessed wrong on how that goes. And then you can go to prison. I don't like the gamification of our tax system. I don't like the behavior control of our tax system. I don't like that, it's like, well, some are going to use it for their benefit and it's going to be fine. And some are going to use it for their benefit and they're going to go to prison. Rules for the not for me sometimes is what the tax system feels like in the US, where those who are very rich are able to use the tax system to pay the minimal in taxes. Those who are not have their taxes taken out of their paycheck and can't take benefit of 90% of the tax code. Our tax code is way overcomplicated. It should be substantially simplified. And I think it would make the system more fair. But that is my rant about taxes. Our system is rife for abuse because of the way it's written for people to benefit. It is, it's written that way. Like it's not a flaw. It's not a glitch. It's a benefit. And then the bureaucracy that facilitates this massive, massive system is wild. And then you have separate state systems, and then you have separate state systems. Then you have to deal with like not just the federal taxes, but then you have to deal with each state's taxes. They make it complex because they build in room for those that they want to be able to benefit and those that don't. I think our tax system should be massively simplified. I think the tax bureaucracy should be massively simplified. And now you know how I feel about taxes. Emily, you want taxes to be more simple? Yes. Yes, because I think it would just be more equitable. What's the possibility of a future tax code reform? The problem is that the people in charge of the rules benefit from the rules. So until the people in charge of the rules don't benefit from the rules, then we're going to have a big fucking problem. Because they benefit from the rules. Their friends benefit from the rules. I could rant about government forever. I'm going to stop. I'm just going to stop. Yes, I'm going to stop. So it's Donita said it better than I did. It's a feature, not a bug. That's exactly it. I find it bizarre when shopping in the US, taxes are added on at the till. In the UK, the price on the shelf are the prices. Here's the thing, Catherine. In the US, that's not possible because when you go county to county, the tax rates are different based on county. So in Tennessee, where I live, if you're in one county, the tax rate on top of goods might be 9%, possibly different on top of gas or other things. Different on food than on certain types of goods. Some states, like, is it New Jersey that doesn't tax clothing? Some states don't tax clothing, but they do tax food and alcohol. Alcohol gets taxed at a higher rate than this. But if you're looking at a shirt at Target, if you go to Target in one county, it's going to get taxed at one rate. But if you go to Target in a different county, the tax rate can be different. In Los Angeles, I used to go shop. Look, these are first world problems. I know, but I used to go buy, when I would go buy a nice purse, I would go to a further away store because the tax rate in that city was less than the tax rate at the store near me. So there is a county tax, but there can also be a local city tax. So the tax rate in like Beverly Hills, California can be different than the tax rate in Santa Monica, California. So you have to look at the tax rate to decide where you're going to go buy expensive goods. Like, where are you buying your car? Are you buying it in this county or that county? Because the taxes can be different, not just based on county, but also based on city. So you can't just label goods as the price that they are because everybody adds taxes on top of that price. Are all of your heads spinning? I'm sorry. It's just, and there are plenty of states that also just don't. New Jersey doesn't tax clothes, it's under 7%. There's taxes near me that are 9.25, and then there's counties where the taxes near me are like 7 or 8. So then you have to decide, like, if you're buying a car, where you're going to go. It's wild. Our taxes are wild. Skoda said, I forget, no food tax in New York. That's the only one. And so for all of you that are international, that is why you just can't have the price be the price, because there are stacked taxes. In California, you get like a gas tax and then a tax on top of the gas tax and then a tax that's a tax for 2 years, but then it never goes away tax, and then just on and on. And it just stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks. So the price can't just be the price, and it's very confusing to teach my kid. My teen has started being able to go with his friends between school and like band practice to go to Sonic or something and get generally some types of fried something and a drink. And he's like, oh, I've got $5. And I'm like, no, you don't. You can't buy $5 worth of goods with $5 because tax. Yes, stacks of tax, stacks of tax, stacks of tax. And so I'm like, so also teaching kiddo how to like navigate, is there going to be taxes on this or not? How much will the taxes be, is something that you need to learn. It's something I forgot as a kid all the time. There was a local liquor store that we would go to after junior lifeguards, and one of like my brain, I'm like, I have exactly this much money. I can spend this much. And it's like, oh no, because there's tax. So anyway, I am not a tax professional. I am not a financial expert. What I look at is a system that is deeply complex by design, and that leads to problems with not just abuse, but it also leads to problems of those that can and cannot benefit from those taxes. And when we look at the people who are writing it and we look at the people that are lobbying them to write it, we see why the tax code is multiple volumes like this. My tax professor in law school, I swear to God, was there when they wrote the tax code, but would need a student to go to their office and get their tax books because the tax books were so big that they could not carry them to class. And like onion paper, this much in the tax volumes. I was literally fascinated by it. At some point, I will probably write a book about the, behavioral control of the US tax code because I'm so fascinated. I just have not had time to deep dive on a tangent about the taxes, but it is used to incentivize or disincentivize behavior. You can have this many kids and you get a tax credit. Have one more kid, no tax credit. You can buy this kind of thing, tax benefit, but not that kind of thing. You can buy goods that cost this much, but not that much. It's made to incentivize certain behaviors. So, government behavioral control through lobbying and tax cuts. Tangent over. The international crew is like, seriously, what the fuck? I know. Why can't they just make it simple? Because why make it simple? How many people would not have a job if our taxes were simple? Not just from like the IRS and the enforcement agents and the state tax branches, but all of the CPAs and all of the businesses that just manage dealing with taxes. Like, there are so many businesses that just help you manage dealing with taxes. It's a whole cottage industry. And I think they would fight like hell to not change it. Anyway. Karen over on Facebook said, wow, I never thought about any of that with the tax code. I'm a nerd. Hey, Joe said our weed tax is high, which is so rude. Because you know what? They don't tax super high? Prescription medications. Why? Because the weed lobby isn't as strong as the pharmaceutical lobby. Oh my God, I need to stop before I get yeeted off of YouTube for asking questions. We should answer questions. Should we just answer questions? Let's just go to questions. Do we need to pull up the sentencing memos? We'll pull them up real quick. We'll zoom. We'll zoom through the first two sentencing memos, and then we'll do questions. We've got some time today. We've got time. We had a nice little rant. About it. So let's see. The chat's like, what a mess. Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot. James from court is like, ask questions. Joy said, Emily, give up and marry me already. Joy, I love you. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm allowed to be married more than once. But if we were allowed to, why not? Marriage is lovely. Let's see. What kind of prison clothing will Todd be wearing? Probably, well, the federal colors don't always lean towards orange. So gray sweatpants and like a gray sweatshirt. Probably in a low, I mean, they don't need to be in a high security prison. They're not going to be, but it's still prison. I mean, it's the thing about it is when people are like, oh, it's not, federal prison, the type of like Martha Stewart prison, whatever. It is, it's still prison. Like we saw the fallout of that really a lot from Teresa Giudice. And we saw how hard it was to not just adjust about being in prison and out of prison, but you miss a lot of milestones. Teresa missed her mother passing. There are these milestones in your life that you are taken out of for years. And that's part of it that is very, very difficult when people are incarcerated. That's literally also part of the point is punishment is punishment. And yes, you get to see your family and yes, they can come visit, but you miss out on those moments. And so it's hard. Artie says if he goes to Pensacola, he will be wearing green. I don't know. My knowledge of the in and out workings of federal custody are much different because I worked within the state system. Debbie Joe said, but if Emily could get married more than once, she would definitely get a TLC show. I mean, maybe that's a feature. I really do like my husband. Stardust said, question, do you watch football? And if you do, who's your team? Off topic, I know, totally off topic, but it totally caught my eye. I watch a lot more college football than I do pro football. I've watched a lot of high school football this year, more than I ever thought I would, and really got into it. Like there's an energy about football games here in Tennessee that you don't have. There's a really lovely community around it that's a little bit different than Southern California. That was a lot of fun. And also I have a high school kid. It's different. It's been truly a blast. And I watch a lot of college. We've definitely been rooting for Tennessee. We are also a UCLA family. Don't talk to me about the USC game. Like la 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 la. La 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 la. And then we've been watching a lot of Titans games here, but with professional football, I don't know. When I lived in I'm not a loyalist. Is that terrible? My family are Eagles fans, so I'll always kind of watch and root for the Eagles. I've also rooted for the Patriots, lived in Massachusetts for a while, so always kind of follow along. But I live in Tennessee. We're gonna watch some Titans football. So my Miguelina is reminding me of the other things I have to do today and that I can't stream forever. Okay, thank you, Miguelina. I will absolutely pull up these sentencings and then we'll get to a few or more than a few questions. I know we got a lot of questions today. I love answering questions and chatting with y'all, and we kind of need it. It's we're getting ready to go into a holiday week. I'm not going to be streaming anymore this week, so it is what it is. So I know some of you are like, you cannot root simultaneously for the Eagles and the Patriots. Yes, that's why we opt out. That's why we opt out. Christina M, I'm going to answer this question while I'm pulling stuff up. Thank you for the great question. Why can Elizabeth Holmes and the Chrisleys delay when they have to go to prison? It's not just them. It's very, very common in nonviolent offenses. It's very common in the federal system, especially when the defendant has been out of custody the entire duration. It seems wild to me, especially in a case like Elizabeth Holmes. She was sentenced almost a year ago, or she was convicted almost a year ago, almost a full year pending sentences. Almost a full year pending sentences. And they're still like, well, she needs a little more time. Granted, she is pregnant and the system's like, we don't want to deal with you having a baby in custody, have a baby and then go to prison. But They're especially in nonviolent offenses in the federal system, people are given more time to turn themselves in, to for their attorneys to say we're going to ask for a stay pending pending release or pending sentence or pending appeal. My brain stopped. We're going to do the other legal wranglings. So it's part of the federal system. People are generally allowed, even in cases like the Nexium case. You saw defendants being allowed to stay out, and the federal system will find you. They do not have people just bounce. I mean, Fat Leonard was a rarity. People generally don't just bounce on the feds, and the feds will find them. So I don't think state systems quite have the resources to go track you down if you don't show up for sentencing. The feds will get you. They have a lower caseload, is my understanding, and less cases go to trial, and that is how they work. So yes. One more question on that. Wait, where'd it go? Misty Hoyser, is there any way Holmes can stay out of prison like pending appeal? Do you anticipate that coming? I anticipate they will ask. I do not anticipate the judge will grant Elizabeth Holmes based on the length of her sentence. If her sentence was 18 months, could I see them suspending sentence pending appeal? Maybe. But her case is 11 years. I don't think they're going to let her stay out pending appeal. Appeals can go on for years and years and years and years. So Cindy Thompson, this is going to keep going. It doesn't seem anybody cares about the IRS agent's statement at trial. They're going to appeal it. But this judge was like, nope. And I will be very interested to see what the judge says. What the judge says in the written motion. I'll be covering that too, because I want to know. Question, did they probably put them on a house? They were already, I believe they were already being monitored, the Chrisleys, pending sentencing after conviction. I believe that they already were. So I think that probably has just maintained. Okay, let me pull, this is the wrong drive. Let's see. We've got, I'm going to take a look at the government sentencing memo. This sentencing memo, y'all, is like 600 pages long. We're not going to go through all of it. It has a ton of stuff attached. We're not going to go through all of it. We're going to just casually take a scroll through this, and then we're going to look at Todd Chrisley's sentencing and see what it has to say. And then we are going to move on to Q&A. This is the government sentencing memorandum regarding defendants Todd and Julie Chrisley. In 2019, defendants Todd and Julie Chrisley and Peter Tarantino were indicted by a federal grand jury for a variety of crimes. The grand jury returned a superseding indictment February 2022. During the 3-week trial in May and June 2022, the U.S. presented evidence of the Chrisleys' conspiracy to obtain tens of millions of dollars in loans. I don't know what this font is, but I hate it. Sorry, that's an aside. My brain just couldn't. I don't know what this font is, but I hate it. The Georgia federal courts, I've seen a variety of different fonts. I'm like, where are the local rules to prevent me from dealing with this freaking font? Hate it. What is this? Is this Times New Roman? Sorry, I'm distracted. I don't like it. I don't like it. Whatever this is, my eyes hate it. But at least it's not 44 line paper. So there's that. So there's that. All right. During the 3-week trial in May and June, the United States presented evidence of the Chrisleys' conspiracy to obtain tens of millions of dollars in loan, defrauding community banks, which they later walked away from when Todd declared bankruptcy. The jury also heard how. We'll talk about the banks another time. The jury also heard how, despite earning over $6 million through their entertainment ventures, they evaded paying Todd's 2009 delinquent taxes and failed to timely file their returns in 2013, 14, 15, or 16. Or make any timely payments for those years. Finally, the jury heard how the Chrisleys attempted to obstruct the grand jury investigating their criminal conduct. That's going to be the one that might put the judge over the edge. It's like how you behave once you're told what you're doing is illegal is going to count against you in a different way. It's going to count against you in a much, much different way. The Chrisleys' defense at trial was to blame others for all their crimes, including their co-conspirator, Mark Braddock, their former employee, Alina Clary, and Donna Cash, the IRS, the FBI, their accountants, their lawyers, and Bank of America. The defendants were convicted of all charges. Sentencing is set for November 21st. The pre-sentence investigation report. This is what I'm most interested in. The U.S. probation has prepared the PSRs for both Todd and Julie. And as a threshold matter, the U.S. believes that there is an evidentiary basis for each of the enhancements enumerated by probation. The sentencing guidelines are on a chart of fuck around to find out, and they graph things by sentencing enhancements. So we will go with that. We will go with that here, or we will talk about that here a bit. And you can find these charts online if you're curious about what the charts look like. However, based in part upon additional records supplied by the Chrisleys when filing their objections, the United States has elected to make a conservative approach to certain enhancements. Accordingly, this is footnote 1. Accordingly, the United States is not recommending applying the following enhancements listed in the PSRs, all of which relate to the bank fraud offense. 1, a 22-level enhancement for the loss amount. The United States is seeking a 20-level enhancement. 2, a 2-level enhancement for the number of victims. 3, a sophisticated means enhancement for Julie Chrisley. Accordingly, the United States respectfully requests the court to make the following guideline recommendations. Base offense level 7, loss amount between 9.5 and 25 million, 20. Bankruptcy misrepresentation, 2. Sophisticated means, 2. Derived less than $1 million in gross receipts from one or more financial, or greater than $1 million in gross receipts from one or more financial institutions, 2. Aggravating role, 2. Obstruction, 2. Total 37. And then tax conspiracy, base offense level, sophisticated means obstruction, 24. Tax evasion, 24. So these are the base levels for each crime. So when you look at the chart, they will look at the offense level and go down from there. Julie Chrisley, base offense level 7, total loss amount 20, 2 to 31. So Julie's total is 31, Todd's is 37. This is also why you're going to see a difference in sentencing, because in the prison time, they are giving the enhancement at different numbers. So that's going to warrant a different sentence. And then the 24s. So Todd Chrisley, offense level 37, which is between 210 and 262 months. Julie Chrisley, offense level 32, between 121 and 151 months. The Chrisleys have objected to nearly everything in their PSRs. Most of their objections are attempts to reinterpret the evidence from trial and re-argue that the testimony and evidence from their witnesses should be credited despite the jury's unanimous verdict. Quote, the problem with the argument is that the jury was free to disregard the testimony, as it obviously did, and instead to credit the contrary evidence presented by the government's witnesses. And this is where I think we will see their appeal, right? The jury is absolutely allowed to take what they believe. Now, if you read the media, especially in the last few weeks, if you read the media is like, jury verdicts. You don't understand. The jurors who were there don't understand. I put a lot of stock in what juries decide. Quite a lot. Maybe sometimes too much, but quite a lot of stock in what the juries decide. They sat there. They're the finder of fact. They get to make those rulings. But I still find the Chrisleys' argument that the IRS agent misled the jury to be concerning, because if the jury is not given accurate facts upon which to make their determination, then there is a question about whether that should be redone, whether another jury should take a look. And so that is kind of my hang up in this case. It's very interesting watching all of the stuff coming out post Depp be heard with the jury just doesn't understand they got it wrong. That's not how our jury system works. I mean, you might disagree with a jury verdict, but we haven't seen anything where we're like, oh, this was misleading. This was what was told to the jury that wasn't true, or this was told to the jury that was a lie. We're not seeing that. In Depp v. Heard, we've got two sides with different sides, and the jury's like, we believe you, we don't believe you. It's a little different when it's like, this is the evidence that we have a problem with, for me. So, but yes, the jury is allowed to disregard testimony to come to a verdict. When the defendant objects to a factual finding that is used in calculating his guideline sentence, the government bears the burden of establishing a disputed fact by a preponderance of the evidence. To the extent, to the extent the defendants object to the facts in their PSRs that would support their guideline enhancements, the United States relies on the trial transcript, the exhibits submitted at trial, etc. Sentencing guidelines argument, Todd and Julie Chrisley should receive a 20 level adjustment because the actual loss was more than 9.5 but less than 25 million. The 11th Circuit requires a reasonable estimate of losses based. So the government is saying, look, we're looking at a reasonable estimate of actual loss at about 20 million. So that is their reasonable estimate of actual loss. Let's see. Investigators used reliable and specific evidence to arrive at the actual loss of 20 million. This is going to be litigated later. The United States demonstrated that Todd and the... Let me be clear about litigated later. This is going to be determined definitely later with the amount of restitution. So this is the loss amount being argued over, just like it was in the Holmes case, the loss amount being argued over for the purposes of sentencing. So the United States demonstrated at trial that the Chrisleys engaged in a lengthy conspiracy to obtain tens of millions of dollars in fraudulent loans from community banks by claiming Todd had $4 million in a Merrill Lynch account, fabricating or scrapbooked banking statements or false tax returns. Once the conspirators obtained these loans, the money was used to either pay back old loans or to fund the Chrisleys' lavish lifestyle. Before and after trial, the United States thoroughly analyzed the available records to calculate a reasonable estimate of actual losses. The records included more than 60,000 emails and documents from Mark Braddock, records obtained from multiple email search warrants, and financial records from dozens of grand jury subpoenas and from Todd Chrisley's bankruptcy action. Investigators also interviewed bankers and other individuals with knowledge of the loans. While the Chrisley object to the PSR's loss calculations as speculative, it should be undisputed that the starting point is the total amount of money that the Chrisleys obtained as a result of their fraudulent submissions to banks. FBI Special Agent Rosowski testified at trial that the conspirators' fraud scheme resulted in banks either issuing or renewing 29 fraudulent loans amounting to $36 million. The agent has prepared more detailed version of the government's exhibited 1220 to more thoroughly explain this $36 million starting figure. The issuance or renewal of all 29 loans listed in Government Exhibit 1220 and Sentencing Exhibit 1s were directly and proximately caused by the false statements to lenders. Accordingly, under binding 11th Circuit authority, the starting point for the court's analysis is $36 million. And then they go on from there to get to that $20 million number for the sentencing enhancement purposes. This is not for restitution purposes. Because the jury found that the Chrisleys acted with intent to defraud, the court rejected the arguments that the loss amount is zero. Yeah, the loss amount's definitely not zero. I mean, I guess the argument is we didn't intend to defraud anyone, so there's no loss because it's not defraud. It was a bank. The banks went under and there's nothing that can be done. 2008 happened and everything kind of exploded. So that's where the bankruptcy filing comes in. But here the $20 million figure is the actual loss to victim banks, not the intended loss. Moreover, the Chrisleys' actions show that they had no intent to repay as they kept rolling new fraud loans to pay off old ones and eventually sought to extinguish the unpaid debt in bankruptcy. Where the United States has produced reliable and specific evidence that banks suffered approximately $20 million in losses, the court should reject the Chrisleys' specious arguments that the loss amount is zero. Julie Chrisley should be held accountable for the total loss amount as she willfully participated in the conspiracy from its inception. Repeating her arguments from trial, Julie Chrisley claims that there is no evidence that she was ever part of the bank fraud conspiracy and thus no loss attributable to her. Her argument is meritless and ignores the weight of the evidence showing her involvement in the fraud scheme. And so they're going to go through that. All right, and then they talk about Julie's actions. Todd Chrisley should receive an enhancement because the bank fraud scheme involved a misrepresentation or other fraudulent action during the course of bankruptcy proceedings. Whereas a bank fraud offense involves a misrepresentation to other fraudulent action during the course of a bankruptcy proceeding, a 2-point sentencing enhancement is warranted. It's irrelevant whether the defendant was charged with bankruptcy fraud or some other fraud scheme. So that's why they're asking for an enhancement there. Let's see. We're going to just, again, we're zooming. Todd Chrisley should receive an enhancement because the bank fraud scheme involves sophisticated means, and that's going to be the, well, let's see what they say the sophisticated means are. The United States agrees with Todd Chrisley that the 2-level sophistication means enhancement applies as the offense otherwise involved sophisticated means, and that the defendant intentionally engaged in or caused conduct constituting sophisticated means. The guidelines commentary explains that the enhancement applies where the crimes are especially complex or intricate. You just don't understand venture capitalism. Sorry, I'm never going to get over that. I'm never going to get over that from the Holmes case, ever. Todd Chrisley does not object to the application of this enhancement, nor should he. The evidence at trial confirms that Chrisley orchestrated and led a 6-year, $40 million bank fraud scheme. The amount these numbers keep changing throughout this sentencing memo annoys me. Where'd the 40 come from? It was 36, and then it was actual loss of 20, and now it's 40. Emily, read more closely. I will. It just makes it hard. The evidence at trial confirms that Chrisley orchestrated and led a 6-year, $40 million bank fraud scheme, during which he directed the repeated calculated submission of false personal financial statements, false corporate and audit records, false tax returns to numerous banks for the purpose of obtaining tens of millions of dollars in secured and unsecured business and personal lines of credit and mortgages. Multiple loans were issued to shell companies such as Auto Express LLC, LKC LLC, Michael Todd Design LLC, the Chrisley Family Trust. Other loans were issued to Todd Chrisley's business, Chrisley Asset Management, to him personally, to Julie Chrisley's business, Select RE Holdings LLC, and to supposed real estate ventures that never went forward, such as Lot 665 then. Sorry, that's a deep inside joke here with the Leonards. Some of you know what I'm talking about. Such as Lot 46 Watersound and South Fulton Land Investments. In all, Chrisley orchestrated, directed, and led a lengthy, extensive, and sophisticated fraud scheme involving the use of numerous shell companies, LLCs, bank accounts, and directed the preparation and submission of multiple types of false financial documentation. A lot of the stuff that's going on here is not illegal, but for the false financial documentation. The shell companies aren't a problem. The multiple loans aren't a problem. Banking's changed a lot since pre-2008. A lot of this, without the false financial documentation, isn't fraud, right? It's the lie that's the problem. It's the false documentation that's the problem. Todd and Julie Chrisley receive a 2-level enhancement because they derive more than $1 million in gross receipts. So the amount of money always matters. The more money, literally, the government sentencing guidelines say mo money, mo problems. That's it. I'm sorry now that you all have phantoms stuck in your head. So look, listen to Biggie. These are life lessons, and the government agrees. More money, more problems. All right. Let's see. Ooh, there's actual samplings of emails. We want to look at sampling of emails. Let's see. Todd Chrisley should receive a 2-level aggravated role enhancement. Braddock testified that Chrisley directed him on what to send to banks, which is corroborated by a sampling of emails admitted at trial. And some of this will look when the court writes out why they decided to deny the motion for new trial, and before we get into the appeals, some of this might be the reason that the court's like, I don't care what the IRS agent said. Here are emails. Which side of the screen? Here are emails. And once there are emails, the jury could have relied on emails, and it doesn't matter what the IRS agent said. In April 2007, Todd emailed Braddock, quote, "These two are great, but we need to find another $15,000 to make my numbers work. So do an invoice for the architect, and you can tag it for revisions. Try to make this happen today so that I do not have anything bouncing. Copy me on what you send Simone." In another April 2007 email, Todd told Braddock, quote, "You can either tell him that they are from the land deal, or you can say that they were transferred from WAMU and then create another bank statement." After receiving a false TPS, that does not say TPS report, PFS report, Todd emailed Braddock, "You are fucking genius. Just make it show 4 million plus." In April 2008, when Braddock reported that he would have difficulty scrapbooking as the bank had legitimate copies of the tax returns, Todd stated, "Stop telling me this shit. Create them like you always have. If I don't get her these, then won't," I imagine that's won't, but won't renew the loans. When one banker reached out about the outstanding loans, Todd directed Braddock to, quote unquote, "deal with this bitch." I can actually, from the shows I've watched and the podcasts I've listened to, I can actually hear that in Todd Chrisley's voice. Todd also repeatedly sent the types of directives to Julie as the bank fraud scheme unfolded, including emails like this one. Quote, please take care of getting her the new insurance information, and Mark will get her the new, not TPS, PFS, as well as getting her the new tax returns. October 15th, 27 email from Todd and Julie CCing Braddock. So in his objection on the PSR, Todd Chrisley concedes that, quote, 2 points at most should be assessed for his role in the offense. Julie Chrisley should not receive a mitigating role reduction. So that means reduced. If she's less involved, you mitigate the amount of the sentence. And let's see. Todd and Julie Chrisley should receive an enhancement for using sophisticated means. We already talked about the sophisticated means. I want to see if there's any other. We love a direct quote. Let's see. Todd and Julie Chrisley should receive an obstruction enhancement for the bank fraud scheme. Well, because let's see. The commentary provides a non-exhaustive list threatening, intimidating, committing, suborning. So that all goes to the grand jury stuff. Let's see. During opening statement, Julie's attorney told the jury that he and Todd's attorney forwarded a bogus corporate resolution to the grand jury. Now, a copy was originally made for Julie by Bill Abbott. As it turned out, Julie apparently had left this corporate resolution, and this is where the alleged obstruction comes, in the trunk of her car. She cooks every meal, believe it or not, she does. She's an outstanding cook, and she has a helper at the house every day. When she came back from the grocery store, his name is Chad. Hey, Chad Bryant. And you will hear from him personally. Chad offered to help bring the groceries out of the trunk. He goes in, he brings in the groceries, he brings them in the kitchen, brings all of the What is happening? Is this from an opening statement? It sounds like it is. Emily, back up, read better. During opening statements, Julie's attorney told the jury that he and Todd's attorney forwarded bogus corporate resolutions to the grand jury. But we got into groceries. Okay, let's just go with it. Let's just go with it. As she's unloading the groceries, she sees this plastic bag that definitely has crumpled up papers like it's a trash bag. And inside, she finds the corporate resolution. What does she do? Well, if you think it's trash, you throw it away. Does she try to hide it? No. What she tries to do is the right thing. She calls our investigator, Bill Selinsky. And what does Bill tell her to do? I don't know. Tell me. Send it to me immediately, which she does. And then both Mr. Morris and I review it and really determine that this would be responsive to the same grand jury subpoena. So what do? We turn it over to the government. Okay. Based on this opening statements, the Chrisleys reached an agreement with the United States assigned filter team and disclosed an email to the prosecution team showing what actually led to the Chrisleys transmitting this sham document to the grand jury. On January 9th, 2019, Julie scanned and emailed Todd and defense investigator Bill Selinsky a copy of the sham backdated corporate resolution. The next day, January 10th, was the day that Faye testified before the grand jury. That morning, Todd drafted an email to himself outlining the bogus story of how Julie and his mother went to add Faye as a signer on the Bank of America account. Quote, oh, there's an email. Well, this is good copy and pasting work for the government. Look, it's all neatly lined in. From Michael Chrisley, the lady at the bank told Mama and Julie that day, January 10th, 2019. Are they saying the email's backdated? They did say the email's backdated. So this is the email that they're saying is backdated. On January 11th, the day after Faye testified before the grand jury, Todd forwarded the backdated document to his defense team with the email. Yesterday, my mother was testifying in front of the grand jury. Krepp presented her with a document that was from the bank that she was 100% owner of 7Cs, but he didn't present her with the documents, and that goes on. The L's in this look really weird. Like, they look odd to me. The L's in like would and help and should. I don't know why, but the way that that's printing is strange. 5 months later, the Chrisleys produced the sham obstructive corporate resolution and the grand jury through their attorney. So that's over ownership of the account. And then it goes on from there. We're like 38 pages in, but there's one more thing I want to get into. Not this. Todd and Julie Chrisley suborned the perjury of Faye Chrisley and Donna Cash. By knowingly facilitating the presentation of false testimony before the court, a defendant does more than just allow a witness to give perjured testimony. Rather, he acts in a manner that obstructs the administration of justice. And they go on to say during their case in chief, Todd and Julie Chrisley knowingly called two witnesses, Faye Chrisley and Donna Cash, who falsely testified about issues material to their defense strategy. After using Todd Chrisley's 77-year-old mother to commit tax evasion, the Chrisleys put her on the stand at trial to lie about key events. Faye Chrisley falsely testified that Julie asked her to be a signer on the account because they were moving to California to film a show, and that when she and Julie went to the Bank of America, Julie told the bank employee that they wanted to add me as a signee, a signatory. Faye also falsely testified that she and Julie went back to the bank to hand deliver a corrected copy of the business resolution with handwritten changes showing that Julie owned 7 Seas Productions. Sorry about that. We're having that kind of a stream today where it just freezes. Let's see. A corrected copy of the business resolution with handwritten changes showing that Julie owned 7 Seas Production instead of Faye, and that the bank employee made a copy of the corrected business resolution and gave it to them before they left. Faye Chrisley's story was patently false and material. The Chrisleys put Faye on the stand to tell the same lie they got their attorney to tell the grand jury when they produced the sham document. But the Bank of America manager, Lisa Stone, unequivocally testified that Julie went into the Bank of America branch to remove her name from the 7 Seas account and place her mother-in-law on the account instead. So not adding her, swapping it. Bank of America's internal records confirm that Faye Chrisley thereafter became the sole owner of the 7 Seas account, and that, as she stated, the crux of the United States obstruction case was the fact that Julie Chrisley submitted that sham backdated corporate resolution to the grand jury, but had never delivered it to B of A. Equally egregious was the false testimony of former CAM director Donna Cash. The Chrisleys put up Cash to falsely confess to the entire bank fraud scheme. Nearly everything that Cash said on the stand was a lie. Most importantly, Cash falsely testified that she and Braddock were the ones who committed the massive 6-year-long bank fraud scheme behind Todd and Julie's back for Todd and Julie's benefit by doing things such as hacking into the Chrisleys' home voicemail system and deleting voicemails from banks. She even testified that the Chrisleys did not know that Braddock was filing false BP oil spill claims, despite an audio recording of Julie Chrisley calling to ask when she would receive a check from their filed claim. What? There is so much more. Oh, there is more here. There is just more here. There is just more here. I have a lot more reading to do. According to Cash, it just wasn't the bank fraud that she and or Braddock were responsible for. She was apparently also responsible for Todd's unpaid 2009 taxes, Julie's wire fraud, and for 3 other fabricated email documents to the United States. This government argument right here is the same argument essentially that Johnny Depp's team made. Either you have to believe that all of these people are lying, or you believe Johnny Depp. Like that was the argument from Depp's team. Either all these people are lying, or Amber Heard is lying. Like, it's not, what do you believe? And that's the argument the government's making here. Either all of these things happened, or the Chrisleys are doing it. So they're saying not only responsible for the fraud, but also responsible for the unpaid taxes, wire fraud, fabricated email, et cetera, et cetera. Cash testified on 2 occasions. Braddock had to tell Todd that a $250,000 payment was being made on his 2009 taxes, and that Braddock fabricated a check showing that the payment had been made when it hadn't. Cash testified that when the Chrisleys were applying for a lease on a house in California, it was she, not Julie, who fabricated 2 bank statements and a credit report and emailed it to the leasing agent using Julie's Gmail account without Julie's knowledge. And if the jury had believed that, they wouldn't have convicted them. Cash also testified that she fabricated invoices from Pineapple House, Ken Knight Interiors, Delta Airlines, without the Chrisleys' knowledge or consent, but for their financial benefit. Donna Cash's testimony was absurd. It was a deliberate effort to mislead the jury. This was not a witness who made some contradictory statements while testifying. Cash directly contradicted the recorded statements she had previously made to the defense team. On the stand, she admitted to the wire fraud scheme, but on the audio recording supplied by the defendants, she said the opposite. In short, the Chrisleys put Donna Cash on the stand and let her falsely confess to nearly every crime that they were charged with. On this point, there can be dispute. The Chrisleys knew that Cash was committing perjury, and they put her up to do. Or on this point, there can be no dispute. What? On this point, there can be dispute. The Chrisleys knew that Cash was committing perjury. They put her up, and they put her up to it. I think they mean can be no dispute. The Chrisleys' objection to fake Chrisley's and Donna Cash's testimony was not false or material is incredulous, and their claim that they didn't facilitate is incredulous, as is their claim that they didn't facilitate perjury. Todd Chrisley threatened, intimidated, and unlawfully influenced his daughter, Lindsay Chrisley. Oh, okay. What is happening? I was going to go through this quickly, and now we're not going through it quickly. The obstruction enhancement is appropriate where the defendant threatened, intimidated, or otherwise unlawfully influenced a co-defendant, witness, or juror. It is not necessary for the defendant to directly communicate with the witness who he is attempting to influence or threaten. This enhancement routinely applies. Okay, law, we want facts. We want facts. What are you saying happened? In this case, Todd Chrisley not only tried to unlawfully influence his daughter, Lindsay Chrisley, he succeeded. After reporting to the FBI and U.S. probation that her father was harassing, intimidating, and attempting to extort her, Lindsay took the stand at trial and testified for her father and stepmother. But on cross-examination, she admitted that the events that led to her appearance in court, crucially, these, either it's the writing or me today, but on cross-examination, she admitted to the events that led to her appearance in court. Crucially, these facts were all documented in the FBI interview report that had been disclosed to the Chrisleys in discovery. From 2017 to 2019, Lindsay Chrisley was estranged from her father. It's my understanding that they have rectified since. 2 months before he was indicted, Todd asked Lindsay to meet him in Chattanooga. Lindsay agreed to meet and drove to Chattanooga, believing that her father was going to apologize for their estrangement for the past 2 years. When she arrived at a restaurant where they met, Todd insisted that Lindsay leave her cell phone in the car. Once they were inside, Todd told Lindsay that he was about to be indicted and questioned Lindsay's involvement in the investigation. Todd continued to press Lindsay about her involvement, and Lindsay told him that she was sick of him and Chase Chrisley putting out threatening tweets directed at her. Todd told Lindsay that she needed to be careful with Chase because he had a sex tape of Lindsay from an indoor security camera. Todd insisted the sex tape was real and told Lindsay she needed to, quote, be careful. A few weeks later, in July 2019, Lindsay called the FBI National Threat Operations Center and reported that her father was attempting to blackmail her with a supposed sex tape of her because he thought she was the reason he was under investigation. The FBI case agent subsequently met with Lindsay, where she reported the information above. She also said that in the days leading up to that meeting, Todd had told her sister-in-law that Lindsay was, quote, behind all this stuff, and that Lindsay was a snake, manipulative, and was going to be sued. The following month, the grand jury returned an indictment, and Lindsay Chrisley was on the witness list that the United States provided to the Chrisleys at their pretrial services and their pretrial services officer. Thereafter, Lindsay continued contacting the FBI. In December 2020, she emailed the FBI that she was, quote, still a victim of Todd Chrisley's harassment. She reported that she was told that Todd and Chase Chrisley were having her followed. Lo and behold, at trial, Lindsay took the stand and provided favorable testimony for her parents. Like the sentencing court in Hesser, this court should reject the notion that these events were merely an intra-family dispute. In Hesser, the obstruction enhancement was warranted where the defendant tried and failed to influence his wife's testimony. Here, Todd Chrisley succeeded in manipulating his estranged daughter, bringing her back into the family fold and putting her on the stand at trial. Restitution. This goes into the restitution for the banks and restitution for the FDIC. We're not going to get through the restitution today because there's still going to be more hearings about the restitution, and I want to get to questions. But there is another document I want to go through. I don't know if I'm going to have time to go through the Chrisley's response to this today. And so, what? There's a map. Sorry, I wanted to look. This is regarding bank failures. So this is a map regarding bank failures and the number of bank failures, 10 or more. Georgia had 74 bank failures. Is that the most on the map? Hold on. That's the most on the map. So these are bank failures from, let's see, lessons from the bank failure epidemic in the 6th district. Interesting. 2008 to 2011, number of bank failures. Georgia leading the nation in bank failures. I mean, Lawn Lumber in the chat saying, oh, look shiny. Yeah, I saw a map. I need to take this off the screen because there was another document that I was looking for that is very interesting to me. I don't know if we'll have time to get to Todd's response. I know I also have a time commitment. Let's see. So that's good. 2 to 3 is fine. All right. Let's see. This is something that comes with a lot of federal cases and state cases, especially in financial crimes, is the government's motion and order for forfeiture. Rob's going to get all giddy in the chat. Rob, are we excited? Are we excited? Look, I want to see what they're forfeiting. The feds will freeze your shit. And if you lose, they will take it. They will take it from you. So here are the, we're taking your shit. We are taking your shit. Let's see what they say. Part of the reason I want to cover it is because no one covered it. No one covered it. I want to know. Let's see. An order of forfeiture against the defendants following the guilty verdict. Background, we know the background. Argument, forfeiture is mandatory after a conviction of bank fraud. What are you forfeiting? How much do you have frozen? We're not going through the law of it. The court should impose a money judgment in the amount of $17 million. Why didn't anyone report the asset forfeiture? Why doesn't anyone cover that? The asset forfeiture is fascinating. Do they have $17 million frozen? I want to know. I want to know. It's well established that the government is entitled to take your shit. To a personal forfeiture money judgment, in addition to any other property that may be subject to forfeiture. Taking your shit. If the government seeks a personal money judgment, the court may determine the amount of money that the defendant will be ordered to pay. Here, the United States seeks a personal forfeiture money judgment against Todd and Julie Chrisley in the amount of $17,217,741.57. They're always going to add the 57 cents. As discussed in the United States Sentencing Memorandum, evidence at trial and that will be presented at sentencing shows that this amount represents the net proceeds of the offense. Because the $17 million represents the amount that the Chrisleys obtained as a result of the offense that they were convicted of, and those offenses are subject to forfeiture, taking your shit, a personal forfeiture money judgment for this amount is mandatory. So what the government can do with a personal forfeit money judgment is take property, cars, homes, bank accounts, savings accounts. They will take it's like your life just gets repossessed. Speaking of which, we need to get back to the Omnia in a Hellcat case and see what happened. I think it's settled. So the government is looking to yoink $17 million of their shit. For the foregoing reasons, the United States respectfully request a personal forfeiture money judgment against the Chrisleys. This will include property, cars, bank accounts. They will come and take everything else. Lawn Lumber, you know what? The 57 cents is too much. I was on board with the 17 million, but the 57 cents, that puts it over the top. It is specific. So there you go. They will be going after the money judgment, order and judgment of forfeiture, and this will allow them to go to banks and take assets to try to go after property. And I'm sure some of that they have frozen. So that's what they're asking for with the asset forfeiture. They're asking that personal property of $17+ million be taken. We'll see if the court signs this. I'll keep you updated if they do. I have questions. You have questions. We have questions. So we're going to just get to questions. Oh, no. I think that's my new sound effect for my own ADHD. I just want to quickly look at the intro of Todd Chrisley's sentencing memo, and the conclusion, and then we'll go because this is 69 pages long. I regret that we didn't get to them. Look, too much has happened in November. With the Darrell Brooks coverage, we just did not get to all of these sentencing memos, just like we didn't cover this trial in depth because the Depp trial was going on. So, defendant Todd Chrisley's memo in support of below sentencing guideline. They're going through the calculation. We know they're objecting to the calculation. The purpose of sentencing, we know the purpose of sentencing. Legal standard fails to show that the guideline enhancements are appropriate. I mean, the government laid out quite a lot of receipts. The evidence has failed to show that the bank fraud scheme involved 10 or more victims. I mean, these are fair things to argue over. They showed the amount of loans. I don't know if they showed all those loans came from different banks. Request for below sentencing guideline. I'm looking for the facts, not just a recitation. Let's see. Let's go through these factors real quick. Those are the factors. Let's go through their walkthrough of the factors. Let's see. To reflect seriousness of the offense, promote respect for law, and provide just punishment for the offense. They didn't say anything about that. They just kind of left point A hanging. Point B, to afford adequate deterrence to criminal conduct. The crimes of which the defendant was convicted are serious offenses. The sentence must reflect the seriousness, but must take into account all of the circumstances. Recognition of the seriousness. A need for deterrence is satisfied by a below guideline sentence in view of the age of the offenses. It's a fair argument. The bank fraud offenses and conviction occurred at least 10. The bank fraud offenses of conviction occurred at least 10 years ago, some as long as 16 years ago. Charge 1 charges bank fraud conspiracy running from 2006 to 2012. Counts 2 through 6 charge substantive bank fraud occurring from 2009 and 2010. The tax offenses, which are based on a failure to file timely returns and submit concurrent tax payments, date back to 2010. At present, no taxes are owed for the additional years included in the indictment, and we learned from reporting that the court did not find that persuasive. The offenses of conviction, although serious, were committed long ago, and their age should be considered as a factor that mitigates the need for punishment. Like, Your Honor, it stopped a long time ago, so punishment to prevent it from happening going forward, the action already shows it's not happening going forward because it's not happening anymore. To protect the public from further crimes of the defendant, Todd Chrisley is 54 years old. Given the defendant's age, lack of serious criminal history, and time that has passed since the offending conduct, a lengthy prison sentence is not needed to protect the public. Let's see. And then they go through some of the other factors in that. Let's see. While not addressed in A6, the court is asked, nevertheless, to consider that an unindicted co-conspirator has not and will not receive any punishment for his orchestration of the bank fraud conspiracy and substantive offenses. Remarkably, Braddock has not even been required to forfeit the proceeds of his theft, which has allowed him to not only be the driving force behind the prosecution in this case, but also to get away with the proceeds he embezzled from the Chrisleys or the banks that provided the loans in this case. Trial testimony and evidence made clear that Braddock prepared each and every false financial statement and bank statement, personally submitted all fraudulent documents to the financial institutions, communicated on behalf of himself and Todd Chrisley with the banks, personally prepared each and every loan application, shared in the proceeds of each loan. Unlike the defendant, Braddock will not be charged with any offenses, will not be required to repay any of the loan proceeds as restitution, will suffer no forfeiture of funds or property. Braddock will not be prosecuted for federal offenses he committed without the defendant, including banks fraud, tax fraud, perjury, BP oil fund fraud. Consideration of this factor as a need to avoid unwarranted disparity favors a downward variance. Need to provide restitution. Defendant's age supports a below sentencing guidelines. Let's see. What else are they? So they're talking about health risks and aging. Chrisley's 54 years old. He has suffered with fibromyalgia since 2012. He takes several prescription medications to treat various symptoms of the disease. In addition, he's been diagnosed with anxiety and is treated with prescribed medication. His father died of complications from liver disease. His younger brother is disabled due to crippling scoliosis and is currently battling throat cancer. Todd's mother, age 77, Faye, is battling bladder cancer. It is therefore predictable, based upon family history, that Todd will develop a life-shortening medical condition. I don't know if the court's going to find that highly persuasive. But it also means that a lower sentence, when he gets out, he's less likely to reoffend because, well, there is less time left. And then it goes through devotion to family and friends with statements of support from family and friends, and well, I don't see anyone calling him a zealot, so better statements than we saw from Elizabeth Holmes. Let's see. So these are from Aisha Jones, Lee White, let's see, Tyler Cooksey, Nick Carroldis, I think I pronounced that correctly, Stephanie Groms, and these are all kind of included within the body. Candy Burris Tucker. Wait, Real Housewives Candy Burris? Yes. Where does that start though? I don't know where that starts. I don't know if that's, oh, here. I've always known him to be a caring friend, devoted advocate for everyone. You can see the love he has for his family, but the admirable role that he took on as a caregiver for his granddaughter, Chloe, represents the essence of who he is outside the stern but comical persona that people see. As a Black woman and his friend, it has upset me over the years to see some of the racist comments that he has been subject to for being a white man raising a biracial child. Mr. Chrisley doesn't allow these people to get to him. He publicly speaks out against racism, which makes me love and appreciate him even more as my friend. And then Rhonda Polhill. Let's see who else. Sherry Bradshaw. Madison Bernard. I think I pronounced that. Cynthia Cooks. Vera Carter. Let's see. Maury. These are on and on and on. Normally these are attached at the end. They're putting them right into the body. They must have had room because it's 31 pages and they attach most of those in the body instead of just attaching the letters as appendices. So I said I was going to get to, and they are attached. So those are the highlights of the letters, but the personal statements are attached here sent in via emails and what have you. So all of those are in there and attached in there, in support of the Chrisleys, quite a lot of them, which doesn't surprise me and is quite common. And we, especially in financial crimes, we saw a ton of these in the Holmes case. So with that, it is time to move on to questions before I have to go because we need it's time. I was going to fact around and find out, and then I distracted myself. So now it's truly time. Quick bits. Emily, that's the wrong bumper. Sure is. When I tell you that we are professionals here, it is not in fact a joke. Yes, it is. It's exactly a joke. We are professionals here. Yes, Candy from Real Housewives of Atlanta. We know their friend. It's one of those weeks. It's just all of it. Let us get to questions. We're going to get to some super chats. We're going to get to some other stuff. We are going to talk about the things and then we're going to hang out. I need to tell you two things. First, if you haven't done the YouTube things, please do the YouTube things. I appreciate you. Second, the Lawnard hoodies with the embroidery are up on the Lawnard shop. They're great. They're warm. They're comfy. My only regret, they don't have thumb holes. The way it's difficult to find sweatshirts with thumb holes. It is. We're working on it. They are great and comfy. They are on Lawn and Shop. There is a sale on Lawn and Shop. Members, check your member spaces. There are discounts for the members. Specifically, if you can't find those, let us know. I actually need to repost that on YouTube so it doesn't get buried for the members over there. Also, you guys know your links for Gerard Cosmetics. We talked about that earlier in the chat. I am not going to be streaming on Thursday because it is Thanksgiving in the US. So however you celebrate Thanksgiving or the harvest, enjoy it. Enjoy your time. Don't forget boundaries are important and it's okay. We don't travel. We're not traveling this year. I am so excited to have a cozy day with the kids. We're going to play Mario Party. We're going to eat early. We are not having turkey because nobody in our family particularly cares for it. So we got to just create the holiday that we wanted. And those are some of my favorite memories. Dr. B and I might do a stream. We're looking at a setup to do a stream on Friday. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. We might grab some whiskey and do a stream just to hang out with the community for anyone who needs a moment of community time on Friday. But I will post that in all the places because it'll be fun. So we will be talking about that. I have not listened to Savannah's podcast yet. CE said Savannah has custody of both Grayson and their 10-year-old, according to her podcast. Their family is going to have to make plans for what to do, but they knew this was a possibility. So, question, do you plan on giving a Britney update? I have been planning on giving a Britney update for weeks. There is so much. Yes, Britney's going to have a whole updated episode next week is my guess. So if we do a stream Friday, it's just going to be a fun stream. It's just going to be a hangout stream, a Q&A stream, a community stream, a ridiculous stream. It'll just be that. I'm also seeing stuff about, y'all are talking about the Masterson verdict. Let me just go to the internet. Did that jury? Okay, hold on. Let me take a look real quick because I don't know. I don't like covering breaking news. I need time to process. Let's see. The Masterson jury breaks for Thanksgiving week after suggesting they may be deadlocked. So that's an interesting update on the Masterson case. I didn't even go look for quick bits today, but they're taking a break. So they're not done yet. The news reports are saying that the jury indicated that they might be deadlocked. Let's see. The jury told the Los Angeles Superior Court Judge Olmedo after nearly 3 days of deliberations, they could not reach a unanimous verdict on any of the 3 counts. Olmedo has already agreed to allow jurors Thanksgiving week off. She stopped their discussions Friday and told them to resume deliberations November 28th. So she gave them time to go home and think about it. We'll see what happens. So we'll see what happens. But could the jury come back? Could the jury come back? Hey, we can't come to a verdict. Yeah, they absolutely could. And there's only so much the judge can do after giving them a week off. If they come back and deliberate for a few more hours and are still deadlocked, it also depends on whether it's one person who's deadlocked, whether it's 4 or 5 or 6 people that are deadlocked. It just really depends on how that deadlock is. So we will absolutely see. Question, will you cover Adventure with Purpose? I haven't even had a chance to look at it, so it's on my list to look at. I don't know. Let us continue on with questions and go through so that Duggar update, please. He's going to prison. I don't know if there's much more. More info coming in. I'll take a look if there's any updates. Candy spells her name with a K. Wonder who wrote the letter. I wonder if it auto-corrected and the lawyers didn't catch it, or if the lawyers typed it wrong, which is possible. Alrighty, let us go to question. Silverback said, who's your starter? So my son and I started playing Pokemon. My son is watching too much YouTube and is called the cat that is adorable, the marijuana kitty. I went with the duck, the quacker. The duck is cute. It's got a little pompadour. It's adorable. So I picked the water starter. I normally will go with a grass type starter, sometimes a fire starter. It just depends. But the pompadour duck is hilarious. And I would normally choose a kitten because I am a crazy cat lady. My son was like, let's choose different starters. And then when we switch games, we have to choose different starters. My 10-year-old had a whole bunch of rules on how he saw this going. And I couldn't argue with him because he's adorable. Question: if the Chrisleys don't have enough assets, do they garnish wages? They can garnish. And in this case, it would probably be residuals that they would garnish. So they could absolutely garnish residuals. Yeah, my son is like, yeah, it's the marijuana kitty. I'm like, I'm sorry, what did you just say? He was like, that's what it's called. I'm like, that's not what it's called. That's what the internet has called it. I know, I definitely want it to be Sprigatito. Oh, you can sing its name to Despacito. Luna Lecter, I can see that. The starters are adorable. I love a new wave of Pokemon. It's just so cute. Do you think Budweiser will be suing the absolute heck out of FIFA Qatar after the Qatari government banned alcohol consumption at the 11th hour? I am not an expert in international law. That all seems like a giant mess. I'm sure a ton of money was lost. I have no idea what their remedies are. That is not, I'm sure somebody will know. I have no idea. Question: would Amber Heard's open letter she did recently have any effect on her legal matters? No, no. I don't. The PR on it. Quaxley forever. Love that cute ducky. He's got a little pompadour. He's like, the flame croc is the best. The flame croc is adorable. Look, the starters are so fun. Pam in Wonderland said you are extremely beautiful. I don't know about that, Pam. I think I'm fairly average, but thank you. Your vibe shines from the inside. Love it. Well, we definitely have a vibe here. We love our vibes. Binge watching Pepsi, Where's My Jet, and kept wondering, what would Emily D. Baker think? Wait, what is that? What's Where's My Jet? I don't know what that is. Now I want to know. Sarah said, I'm that parent, don't stress. I mean, sometimes we just don't like to share. Sharon H said, I bought one together with my fiance and then I bought one for myself. I just can't. Sharing a Nintendo Switch is very hard. I'm ready for a Nintendo Switch Pro. If there is another Nintendo Switch, will I, like PS5, wait my ass in line to do all the things to get it? Yes, I will. Jojo Bell said, my all black 40-ounce Starbucks Stanley Cup came today. Do you love it? Oh my God, I have to tell you guys a story. So I still do a limited amount of consulting work. And I got on a call with one of my just favorite friends and humans, runs a pregnancy and postpartum athleticism business, Brianna Battles. Just adore. So, and she shared that we had our meeting on social media, and that is the only reason I'm mentioning it, because she shared it. So we had a call about business and a catch-up call. And her business partner was also on the call, or business associate. And in the side view of the Zoom call was her beautiful gray Stanley. And I'm like, look at you. And she's like, no, I was at yoga. Every single person at yoga, like, I don't leave my house to exercise because I need no one to witness that. I need to exercise in privacy. But had it sitting there and was like, no, everyone had their 40-ounce Stanley mugs at yoga. I'm like, oh, they've taken over. And then I was watching, not me relaxing to watching other people reorganize their kitchen on YouTube. I have 2 different YouTube accounts so that my algorithm is different. I have one YouTube account where I do all my research, all the stuff that I'm looking at for the content I make here. And then one that is like, algorithm, serve me people organizing thing. And like, the booktube accounts and all that stuff, like do all of that. And so I'm down that rabbit hole of watching people reorganize their kitchen and stuff. And like 3 people had these on their counter. I'm like, oh my God, it's a thing. It's a thing. So I have questions. Said rose gold 40-ounce Stanley Cup here. What is the Quaxley Duck Pokemon? My pink Stanley 40-ounce comes today. So ordered Stanley Cups, 40% off for nurses. Love it. I love that. Oh, healthcare workers need all the love and need to be hydrated. All of it. The Teeny Moose said, I got my jujitsu purple belt this weekend. Congratulations. Jujitsu looks hard as hell. Carrie Berry said, pens. Yes, don't touch my pens. Just don't touch my stuff. Jen Gerard, it's good to see you in the chat. You sound like nurses. We do not like it when people take our pens. We have hundreds of them. Yeah, and if people take them, then you'll have 0 of them. Stina said, I'm excited for this one because I have 2 English Springer Spaniels and they need all the toys. It's time to go and get all of the toys. TM lawyer here. Parody certainly is a valid defense. Don't see a likelihood of confusion. I don't either. Hillary, I'm really excited to look at this case though. You know how we feel about food cases on this channel. We love, I need to just change my intro. We cover pop culture and food laws. sometimes music, sometimes food. Please organize a whiskey tour with Emily. I'd totally be down for that. I need to find an expert and then let us all learn together. Ancient Reapers said Julie got that female justice system privilege. Todd got 12. She only got 7. They had different base offenses based on their participation. I really don't think it had to do with her gender. I think it had to do with participation and Todd's statement at sentencing too. Mystic Mythical's Art said, I'm behind, but the same with my kids. I don't share my art supplies. I get their own. Yep. Sean said, I feel offended as Jack Daniels thinks so little of its customers' intelligence to think that would confuse them. That's fair. Tim Riggs, fin crimes are punished below their impact in the US. That's a fair statement. EDB, any take on the Bar Association limiting the LSAT requirement? I haven't given it a whole lot of thought. So I don't really have a take yet because I haven't given it a whole lot of thought. I was like, interesting. That was my first thought. My first thought was like, oh, interesting. Let's see how that goes. So I don't have a ton of thoughts on it yet. I need to read more about it. B, I want to see why they're doing it. Whiskey tour, I'm down. Need to visit law school friends in Nashville soon. Law and Lumber, I'm just going to pretend I'm one of your law school friends. Texas Caddy said, part of the discussion was 7M wants a gag order on the YouTuber, but she wants Taz and medical info. 7M feels like she will publish that info unredacted. Oh, talking about the 7M hearing. Yeah, I can imagine their concern. I mean, it seems that she's still talking about them, or at least they said that she was still talking about them in the hearing. So I can understand that. Question, what about the IRS's agent's bad testimony? That's going to have to go up on appeal because the judge denied it. Daryl Brooks appealing already. Disrespectful. I have questions. I understand why it feels that way. I'm just going to give you a counterpoint to that briefly. The amount of time that Brooks has to appeal is limited. In criminal cases like his, there will always be an appeal, always. So filing a notice of appeal or starting to file an appeal does not offend me. It's part of the system. So I see it as like, this is another part of the system. I'm not surprised, but I think it's 20 days and we're coming up on a lot of holidays. So I'm not surprised. Robin said, I literally just bought 6 items from Gerard Cosmetics thanks to your stream. Well, we love supporting Gerard Cosmetics here, and I love how much Jen has supported the channel. So I like supporting things that I like. B, love supporting a local small makeup brand. I mean, it's Gerard Cosmetics is Gerard Cosmetics. So I love it. And the makeup's great. I don't know, why wasn't the accountant given more time to serve? The amount of offenses, the lack of, the kind of the taking part in the reward and the amount of offenses. He was only sentenced to a few of the fraudulent tax or a few counts of filing the false reports. So his baseline sentence, the sentencing number that we saw with the Chrisley the accountant's was much lower. Interlocution said the problem with the defamation case against the YouTuber is that the things she said were actually true and now proven by their conviction. I think that's talking about the Chrisley case and not the 7M case. That case settled or resolved, or they both walked away, but that case isn't going forward. So I didn't look, when we look at the statements, I mean, I can go back and look at the statements made about Todd Chrisley. Not all of them were regarding this, but most of them were regarding this. So that case ended, and I think it ended with both parties can't talk about each other. Anna Catherine said, I always feel like somebody's watching me. Yeah, it's the IRS. I mean, and the NSA and TikTok. TikTok's definitely watching you. Magician Sapphire, is an appeal an option for the Chrisleys? What are their chances of winning that? I think an appeal is absolutely going to happen. I think, we'll have to see the appeal, but I think the argument about the IRS agent testimony is an interesting argument. So I think it's fair. Jenny said, thank you for answering my question. Have a great holiday. Cheers, you too. Let's see. Justine, what is a staggered sentence? Thank you for asking this question. Mm-hmm. So what we saw with like the Judices is that Teresa Giudice went into custody, served her sentence, and then Joe Giudice went into custody after her and served his sentence. So they staggered when the different parties went into custody. Their sentences were much, much shorter. I don't think we're going to see that in this case. And we've already seen a number of you have said that that was denied. Let me actually take a look and see where TMZ said that. So it would be like, let Julie go in and serve her sentence and finish it, and then let Todd go in, or vice versa. So I imagine they would ask, especially when they're parents of kids, but we will see. Let's see. Let's go look at what TMZ has to say real quick. I already turned off my screen sharing, so I'm just going to look real fast at the TMZ article and see what it says. Todd and Julie Chrisley are going to do hard time after being convicted of bank fraud and tax evasion. They both received 16 months probation after their custodial sentence. Federal prosecutors argued for a lengthy sentence. Julie's lawyers argued she should spend no time behind bars. Todd's lawyers argued he should get a maximum of 9 years in prison. Let's see. Nothing in that article. Let's see if there's another article about this. Chrisley knows best. Future of series unclear after Todd and Julie's prison sentences. I can imagine that. The show Chrisley's knows best is up in the air following Todd and Julie getting their lengthy prison sentences, but we're told the network already has some episodes in the bag that will air next year. Sources tell TMZ no official word has come in from NBC Universal about the future of the show, despite reports Monday of the show getting the axe. I mean, we'll see what happens. We're told a handful of episodes were shot prior to the trial and will air sometime next year. I will keep looking for this, and if I see anything that talks about the staggered sentences being denied, I will share it on social. I'll go look for it, and I'll check my email and see if any of it's there. Janice said, my husband is a CPA. If you lose your license, you lose your license if found guilty of a felony, particularly if it pertains to accounting. So I imagine this person was a licensed CPA. Was there video in court for this case? Jack Scott, it's a federal case. No, the feds, well, frankly, they're just dicks when it comes to recording in the courtroom. They have court sketch artists, and that's it. Someone has to sit in court and report on it. And there aren't always people sitting in courts day in and day out recording on these cases, but it requires somebody to physically be in the courtroom. No recording, no audio, no video, no nothing. IRS equals a nightmare. Own a business and write those checks only to have them screw up every single time. You owe money, you owe money, you owe money, etc. That's what the Chrisleys are saying, part of what happened. So, Free Flyer, I had to learn how they use the tax code and apply it to myself. Got audited once, but it was all above water. There is using the tax code, and then there is abusing it. I agree with that. There are boundaries to the rules. Let's see. Lemon and Arrow said, LOL, very cute non-SEC teams. By the way, go Dogs. Look, I grew up in California. We root for Tennessee. We live in Tennessee. All our neighbors went to Tennessee. So, question, Emily, can you please update the Masterson trial? Is it really a hung jury? It's not a hung jury yet until the court says the jury has to stop deliberating. So we'll see what happens next week. Thank you for the super chat, Kimberly. I'm going to try to get to a few more questions. Question, why was the false statement from the IRS agent not a valid reason for a mistrial? I don't know what the court's reasoning is yet. I haven't covered that yet. The court said, because the sentencing is coming up, I am denying the motion and I will issue my ruling later. I want to see the court's ruling and then we'll cover it. Trisha, I do not do a lot of breaking cases. I do not do a lot of true crime breaking cases. It's heartbreaking seeing what happened in Idaho. It's got to be terrifying. They aren't releasing much. They're not going to release much until an arrest is made. So there is not much I can say other than they are protecting any future conviction. Until an arrest is made, they should not and will not release much information. And that is frustrating, and it's appropriate, especially in the early periods of an investigation. Every thing needs to be evaluated. Every option of A, B, C, D, E, F, all of it needs to be looked at to determine what arrest needs to be made, who the potential perpetrator is, and those things take sometimes a lot of time. So unfortunately, that is appropriate and very, very frustrating. So I am sure the community is absolutely terrorized and heartbroken by all of it. So if there is input I can give, I will. I don't generally just cover it. There's not a lot of input I can give other than investigations need to be methodical. It looks like the FBI is involved, and that's what it is. So I wish I could offer more. There's not much. Chanley Painter has been out on the scene covering it on Twitter and for Court TV. Chanley has always been very careful with the way that she reports things, and I always appreciate that. I don't know if Brian Enton is covering it, but I will share the reporters that are covering it. I am not a reporter. I'm not a journalist. I'm a legal commentator. And right now there's not much legal. So there's not much I can help with other than say, look for official sources of information. Do not be swayed by speculation. There can be a lot of misinformation in the early days of investigation when people really want answers. Answers give us a sense of control. It is deeply, deeply uncomfortable, particularly when there's tragedy. It is deeply uncomfortable to not have answers, deeply uncomfortable. And that is why it is so hard to wait. And I think that's why there can be a push to get more information that can make investigations difficult going down the road. Rianne, did I see an email? I have not been in my email. My team has. I have a long list from my team of stuff I have to get to. So if it's there, trust that my team has noted it for me. Please check out the Pepsi documentary. I will. But no, my team has noted it for me. I have a list of things I need to get to that I get that I get asked regularly. It's like, Emily, have you gotten to your to-dos today? So literally my team will pull out emails for me to answer. I just haven't gotten to it. Let's see. Stuck on String says, as an expat American in France, the US is not truly a united country. Each region is like its own country. Taxes are insane and complex. It really, well, we've got multiple systems. We've got like the federal system and the state system. And then within the state system, there's counties and cities and regions. And yes, mess. WW said you also have situations where residents of one state, Alaska, don't pay any taxes for purchases in another state. I didn't know that. I didn't know Alaska residents didn't pay taxes in Washington. If you want a tax and food case, there's a case from the UK regarding VAT or sales tax. That's interesting. There was also a case in New York about whether hot dogs were a sandwich. So hot dogs being a sandwich or not a sandwich, and what kind of food they were to be taxed in New York, which is always fascinating. With that, you guys, I hate to have to go. So Devin said, in other words, do not go off of what Twitter says unless it's an official news source. I always want to look for multiple sources reporting a thing. And there are news sources that I trust. Here's how I trust news sources. I watch them over time. This isn't easy. This doesn't give any immediate answers or comfort to those that are struggling for answers in the wake of tragedy. It absolutely doesn't. And I know that. But I look over time at their track record. You know, if something has gotten wrong, which happens and will happen, is it corrected? How is it corrected? What are they reporting? Are they cautious in their reporting? Are they mindful of wanting to give the public information, but also knowing that with an ongoing investigation, protecting what information is out in the public is really important, because information known in the public can actually damage an investigation or future arrest, and making sure that they are mindful of those things. So I always want to be careful in who I watch and who I refer to you guys. So I try to, refer slow over time. I try to look for news sources that are local and on the ground, and news sources that, again, I've watched over time. And there are some that I absolutely trust, and some that I am still looking at. Look, there was an insider article today, and as I say, articles can be wrong, but the critical thinking has to happen, and that can be hard too, especially when looking for answers in the wake of senseless tragedy. It is very, very much harder to look for answers when you are devastated, because it's much harder to process that information. And I understand that, but that's where clickbait pisses me off so much, is when people are scrambling for information because they're trying to understand tragedy. That can be taken advantage of. I prefer the slow and steady approach, but that's not how you make money on the internet. And I understand that. I try to take a slow and steady approach. Do I get that right all the time? Absolutely not. Do I try? Absolutely. Which is why I don't like covering breaking news until I've had a minute to process it. All right, I'm going to share a screen real quick and show you what I mean with news sources, because even news sources can get it wrong. But here's this. This is also, do I need fleece-lined pants? Probably. I've been at football here in the South. Can we scrape this? Oh, no. All right, we're just going to go real quick, and we're going to have to deal with some ads. Todd Chrisley was sentenced to 12 years in prison after a fraud conviction. Todd Chrisley was sentenced to 12 years in prison. His wife was sentenced to 7. The reality TV couple were convicted in June. Peter Tarantino. Oh, they updated it. I should have taken a screenshot. This said their lawyer all day yesterday and this morning. So they updated it. This said their lawyer was sentenced to 36 months. So they've updated it. I should have screenshotted it. Did they note that they updated it? Because these are the things, like little things can happen. Correction. An earlier version of this story misstated Peter Tarantino's relationship to the Todd and Julie Chrisley. He's their accountant, not their attorney. So that's the thing. Sometimes typos happen, mistakes happen. As long as you know that it's being corrected and you see a correction made and you've noted it, it's important. Law and Order said getting it right is more important than releasing it fast. And unfortunately, right now, some people really tend to lean into releasing it fast because that's the 24-hour news world that we live in. So I might be slow, but I will try to be accurate and mindful. With that, thank you guys for being here. Thank you for being law nerds. I hope that you have a great week. I hope that your time spent is restful. It is the thing I most look forward to this week. I have so much fondness for this time of year, for Thanksgiving, for time spent with family, and for time to be slow. I will not be on the internet a ton because it's slow family time. We're going to play games. We're going to eat food. We're going to be snuggly and cozy. And that is what I love doing this time of year. And with that, thank you for being here. Thank you for being law nerds. Stay tuned for a potential EMB stream on Friday. And I will see you guys in the next one. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Okay, bye. Connect with me everywhere. I'm at the Emily D. Baker. If you guys want to join the text, just text Emily.com. If you want to join the channel, lawnerdsunite.com. Happy to have you. Support what we do here on the YouTube.